Hey guys, I'm Yuruzi. Part 3 of What If Naruto Was a Mimic Ninja. Sharingan, one of the most renowned doujutsu of the ninja world. In Naruto's world, its copying abilities may be pushed to the side thanks to one blonde ninja. In a ninja world just as technological as ours, Naruto will become a legend. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 9, Faster the Treadmill's Round Start. Naruto picked up a bag of 50 shuriken in a candy-colored bag and weighed it in his hand. The bright green package weighed a bit more than the pink one in his other hand. Naruto presumed that these were a higher grade and put the pink bag back on the shelf. The blonde walked to the front of the store where Takuma was arguing with an attractive girl about a year older than Naruto and his friends with long brown hair and the same colored eyes as her older brother. She wore a tight-fitting blue shirt with a brown smock over it. The counter covered most of her bottom half, but Naruto could see the beginnings of a blue skirt. They were in front of a wooden counter that was itself sitting in front of a wooden table. On top of the table were the gloves that had smashed him into the face. "I'm telling you, Emmy, you need to quit throwing our stuff out of the windows. Now I need to fix them," Takuma grumbled. Emmy huffed and flipped her hair. "Well, stop being so lazy and make sure you clean out the storeroom," Emmy replied. Naruto smiled to himself while the siblings squabbled. It must be nice to have family to talk to. The boy looked at his items and listed what he had gotten in his head and how much it would cost. "Let's see, I have the bag of 50 shuriken, 20 feet of ninja wire, a case of 30 kunai, and 2 bags of candy," Naruto thought. The ninja supplies were a must, and the candy, well, why come to a sweet shop and not buy candy? Plus, when he summoned Gamakichi again, he'd have the candy to pacify the toad. Speaking of the little animal, he was ecstatic to get free samples of the candy that the Oshiro siblings sold. Once he had his fill, the toad thanked the owners happily and told Naruto to summon him whenever and then disappeared back to his world. After Gamakichi's appetite was taken care of, Ino and Naruto were given an impromptu tour of the store. The blonde boy was ecstatic to find a plethora of weapons ranging from the simple shuriken to amazingly crafted swords. Speaking of his identically blonde companion, Naruto stretched his head as he stood on his tiptoes trying to find the girl. Ino was growing frustrated. After being shown the store, she proceeded to look around on her own while Naruto shopped for things that he needed. Like Naruto, she was amazed at how much the store had. But the way this damn place was set up infuriated her. She had just finished walking down the aisle that held kunais of different grades when she turned the corner and ended up facing an aisle full of snacks. All she wanted to do was find the front counter so she could get out of this maze-like place. Suddenly a voice came from her right and she saw the top of Naruto's head over the shelves. "Hey Ino, get over here." Ino sighed in relief and meandered her way around towards the front counter to find Naruto with his arm crossed looking at her impatiently. "What happened? I got lost. This place is freaking huge," Ino seethed. Takuma and Emmy had stopped fighting to watch as Naruto laughed at Ino and the girl balled up her fist and smashed it upon the boy's head. Naruto smacked against the counter with a loud bang, causing his items to bounce up. Naruto groaned loudly and Takuma laughed heartily. "See, you got girl problems too, huh? Don't worry kid, my sister causes me stress too," Takuma said, receiving a sandal to the face. Emmy growled lowly while Takuma and Naruto lay on the counter moaning. "She ain't my sister, but she does like to hit me. I try not to get her mad," Naruto whispered. "Smart boy." Takuma and Naruto pushed themselves up and the man looked at Naruto's items. Grabbing everything, he rang them up on the scanner and tapped on the cash register. Emmy crossed her arms and watched her brother and Naruto with intense eyes, and the boy gulped. She was a scary person to cross apparently. As Naruto pulled his wallet from his pocket, he saw Takuma staring at the screen of his register intently. "Oh no," Naruto thought, "he's just like the others. He's probably thinking of how high to overcharge me. I should have known they were being too nice. Well, at least he was. His sister hasn't really talked to me. Emmy might not know about it, but this guy should be old enough." Naruto frowned sadly and started to put his frog-shaped wallet back into his pants when Takuma's voice cut his thoughts short. "Emmy, these shuriken are medium grade and made with Kanto-type metal, right?" Takuma said, holding up the bright green bag. Emi picked up the pouch from her brother's hand and lifted it up and down. She clicked her tongue a few times and walked forward and reached behind the wooden counter, pulling out something the two genin couldn't see. Her arm appeared later holding a shiny silver bag much like the green one and hefted that up and down. I see what you're talking about, Nii-san. I think the tag is wrong because you charged him for the high-grade shuriken made from Johto metal. Emi said. She then put the silver bag back under the table and set the green bag down. Sorry Naruto, that's our mistake. Emi said, smiling at the surprised boy. That will be 1,600 ryo. Naruto was flabbergasted. Not only did these two not overcharge him, but they also caught a mistake with their pricing and fixed it. But I thought it would be much higher. You, Naruto said, pointing at Takuma, who tilted his head. You should know about it. Naruto stated, his voice slowly growing into a whisper and his head going down. Takuma looked at the young boy confused before his eyes flashed in understanding. Emi looked at Naruto sadly and crossed her arms. Takuma shook his head and sighed. The poor kid probably expected him to raise the price to an outrageous level. He reached over and patted Naruto's head, who had raised it in shock. Naruto, it's okay. Here you won't be treated like that. Takuma said, smiling. Naruto's eyes widened and he had to hold in the tears that formed at the corners of his eyes. Ino was still next to him, staring confused at the situation. Naruto tried to ignore her, he didn't want to explain anything right now. Thank you. Naruto whispered and pulled out his wallet again. Counting his money, he found that he still had a good amount seeing as he only bought the essentials. Naruto pulled a wad of ryo out and handed it to Takuma. Takuma took it and counted the money before stopping and looking at Naruto oddly. He opened his mouth to speak before Naruto cut off with a wave and a smile. Keep the change. I'll be back, you can count on it. Naruto grinned. Takuma's confused look turned into a grin and Emi smiled at the blonde boy. Thank you Naruto-kun. Emi smiled brightly causing Naruto blush and scratch his head. The girl was much cuter when she smiled. Ino narrowed her eyes at the scene and nudged Naruto with her elbow. For some reason him blushing at the girl while she was there made her feel weird. Naruto muttered an ow and grumbled under his breath. Well, I should get going. I have to train more for the finals. Hey, maybe you guys can come see me kick some ass? Naruto said as he gathered his things. We'd love to go, see you. Takuma laughed. While Naruto talked about all the ways he was going to kick Niji's ass, Takuma turned around at the table behind him. He looked between the gloves and the young ninja and smiled. Funny that it was these gloves that hit him. If you were in my shoes, I'm sure you would have done the same thing, father. Hey Naruto. I have a favor to ask. You think you could hold on to something of ours till tomorrow? Takuma said, picking up the gloves. Yeah, sure, but what should I do with them? Naruto asked, taking the two objects from Takuma's outstretched hand. Naruto noticed that Emi was staring at the two of them with wide eyes, but her gaze kept going to her brother. Shock and worry was written all over her face. Naruto didn't feel too comfortable with that expression. Don't worry about anything. Just hold on to them and hey, try them out if you want. Just make sure you come back tomorrow, okay? Naruto nodded and he and Ino walked out of the store, leaving the siblings to themselves. What are you thinking, Takuma and I? Those gloves are. I know, Emi-chan. Just trust me. I have a feeling that our life is about to get very interesting with him in our lives. Naruto walked back to his apartment after dropping Ino off at her house. He had had an interesting encounter as he arrived at the girl's home. When they reached her flower shop/house, her father had burst through the door with what looked like the largest kunai Naruto had ever seen. The man then started yelling at the frightened boy, scaring him further, hollering that he was just another hooligan trying to steal his baby's pure flower. Naruto screamed and ran away with Ino's father in pursuit while Ino yelled at Inoichi to stop, clearly embarrassed. That day Naruto learned the horror of overprotective fathers. After his frightening ordeal, Naruto decided he had enough excitement for the day and headed home. He had training with Erosenin tomorrow anyways. Jiraiya sat at the Hokage's desk with a frown marring his features. It was late into the evening now, so old Sarutobi would have quiet, plus the privacy seals should be turned on at this time. So you're telling me that Naruto-kun had a seal on his stomach that was messing with his chakra? No wonder he mentioned something like that during the preliminaries. Hiruzen sighed loudly and lit his pipe, letting the tobacco soothe his nerves. First Orochimaru marks Suki, and now he may have an interest in the boy he thought a grandson. I took care of the seal, so it's no problem, sensei. But what surprises me is what happened while I was teaching him. Sensei, he was able to summon a toad on his first try. The amount of chakra he must have is amazing, plus, his control isn't as bad as I've heard. Jiraiya said. He was confused when the old man in front of him smiled and chuckled. Naruto has a way of surprising people. I've heard in Kakashi's report that he taught them a little more than he first wanted to. Naruto learned the water walking exercise in Nami, so it is my guess that Naruto continued to do that and the tree walking exercise after he learned it. Then what should I do for him now? I can have him continue to summon larger and larger toads, but he seems like he'd get bored of that easy. I don't want to teach him Rasengan yet. Jiraiya huffed in annoyance. The kid is a whole bundle of surprises, isn't he? The Sandaime laughed and the two sat in the office reminiscing of old times. As the hour turned late, Jiraiya pulled himself from the comfortable chair as he got ready to leave. I guess I can teach the kid how to amplify his speed and maybe some taijutsu. He's facing the Hyuga kid, so he needs to be fast. The younger of the white-haired men sighed and scratched his head. I might even have to get him to draw out Kyuubi's power soon. I guess I have a plan. Well, see you later, sensei. One more thing, Jiraiya-kun. Hiruzen said, stopping his old student. Naruto learns by doing, so I suggest showing instead of telling. May I suggest a good fight to get his blood pumping? Jiraiya hummed before nodding and disappearing out the window, leaving a small whirlwind of leaves in his wake. Naruto was back at the spot where he first summoned Gamakichi, standing on in the field next to the river and the shore. In his hands were the gloves that Takuma and Emi had lent him, and right now he was inspecting them. They looked the same as when they first smacked him in the head. He did notice that near the wrist of the gloves were two clips so he could attach them to a belt buckle or something. He tested their stitching to see if they would rip off, but it seemed like the clips were secure. Naruto didn't exactly want to put them on yet. He was to meet with the Oshiro siblings today after training, so if he did put them on and something happened, he wanted Emi and Takuma to be there. A pillar of smoke alerted Naruto of a presence, and once the smoke cleared, Jiraiya stood there with the sun shining behind him. So kid, you ready to get started? Naruto nodded and clipped the gloves to his right hip and ran over to the man. So Erosenin, what's on the agenda today? Quit calling me that. Jeez. Well, I wanted to work on your summoning, but I think we'll get to that later. Your opponent is that Hyuga boy, right? Yup. I have to beat him for talking down on Hinata like that. Someone needs kick his ass, and that's going to be me. I'll use everything I got and take him out in one shot. Naruto shouted. Jiraiya bonked Naruto on the head and the boy dropped to the ground with a hiss of pain. What the hell, you pervert? Why'd you hit me? Naruto yelled. We need to work on your patience. My guess was that you were going to flood the kid with clones till the Hyuga got tired. Naruto blushed in embarrassment. That was exactly what he was thinking of doing, with a Raygon blast and rubber move thrown in here and there. Jiraiya sighed. It's okay, kid. That's why I'm here. So today what we are going to do, Jiraiya blurred behind Naruto and picked him up. To the boy's amazement, is work on speed. Naruto tiredly walked down the road towards Oshiro's snack and Smith, his legs feeling like jelly. Jiraiya had him go through some vigorous conditioning to make his body ready to handle moving at great speeds. Jiraiya had showed him the hand seals for the Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker jutsu, but Naruto felt like finding some other speed technique. Not to say he wouldn't learn Shunshin, but if he could find something that didn't need a seal, then he'd be happy. The Toad Sennin said that even if he got good with Shunshin, he'd still need at least one hand seal, half if he became an expert, to initiate the technique. There has to be some other way of augmenting my speed. Naruto stopped walking and scratched his head. When did I start using words like augmenting? Nah, maybe I'm getting smarter. Whatever, I need to get to Takuma and Emi's quick. Naruto ran through the road and finally came to a stop outside the shop. Coincidentally, there was a wooden board placed where the broken window was. Naruto walked through the door and looked around, trying to spot anyone. Hello, Naruto-kun. Naruto yelped and quickly spotted Emi walking down a flight of stairs that led to the second floor of the building Naruto had yet to see. Emi was dressed in a simple red tank top with a blue short-sleeved vest and a blue skirt today, and Naruto had the sudden realization that many ninja dress in the same looking attire day by day. For example, Naruto himself had at least 4 of the orange jumpsuits, not saying he didn't have any other clothes, but it seemed like he and his ninja brethren dressed the same regularly. Odd. Hi Emi-chan, Naruto said, forgetting about the clothes issue. Where's Takuma? Didn't he say I had to come here today? Oh, you're here already, Naruto. Excellent, that means we can get started. Takuma said as he came down the same stairs Emi did. Why don't you follow me and I'll show you something cool. Takuma walked down the stairs and maneuvered his way around the shelves with Emi and Naruto behind him. Naruto found himself way in the back of the first floor and in front of a door that must have led to the backyard of the building. Naruto's guess was correct as he saw the open space once Takuma opened the door and led them all outside. What Naruto was surprised about were the various targets lining the trees that encompassed the large space and the multitude of training dummies that looked to have been used quite a bit. In a far corner of the yard was an item that confused Naruto. Under the shade of a large tree looked to be an anvil with various tools strewn around it. Next to the anvil was a trough of what looked to be water, and these items all stood in front of a shed with a small chimney that was letting out a swirling line of black smoke. You guys are ninja? Naruto asked, surprised. Takuma chuckled and Emi giggled. Children of a family of ninja. We, as in me and Emi, aren't ninja. We are smiths. Takuma explained. Then what's with the targets and dummies? Well, we have to test our products before we sell them. Emi stated. We pride ourselves on selling the best, so testing them for any problems is what we do here. Naruto nodded and continued to survey the field. It was quite an amazing place. So let's get down to business. Did you bring those gloves, Naruto? Takuma asked. Naruto nodded and unclipped said item from his waist. Takuma took them from Naruto's hand. So, did you use them? Naruto shook his head in a negative. Huh. Well, I was hoping you would have put them on, but I guess an example would be better. I didn't want to put them on in case something to them. Naruto explained. What if I did something I wasn't supposed to? Oh, don't worry, Naruto. Takuma laughed. These babies are nigh indestructible. But I thank you for your courtesy. Takuma slipped on the gloves. I wanted you to put them on so you could see this. Takuma held his hands up and the metal rings around each finger hole on the gloves glowed briefly. Suddenly, metal plating shot from the rings and covered the rest of each finger that was not covered by the glove. The plating segmented at each finger joint with a click and then melded at the tips until you could no longer see the skin of Takuma's finger. Whoa, that is bad, ass. Naruto said, amazed. Takuma chuckled at the boy's amazement. You haven't seen anything yet, Naruto. Takuma motioned for Naruto to follow and Naruto and Emi followed the young man towards the anvil. Now, these gloves are very special, Naruto. The reason is that the people who have used them have been able to accomplish amazing things. For example, I want you to look at the anvil right there. Naruto looked at the large anvil, then back to Takuma and shrugged. I don't see anything too special. Takuma walked to the anvil and from the pocket of his beige pants pulled out a large lump of what looked to be metal. It is not the anvil that is special. It is what I am going to do on it that is amazing. Takuma placed the lump of metal on the flat surface of the anvil, then held his covered hands over them. Suddenly the glass domes atop the gloves glowed blue and the palms of Takuma's hands started to shine. He then grasped the metal and started to work it into a shape as if it were clay. His eyes narrowed in concentration and he bit his cheek as he molded the metal, much Naruto's amazement. Time passed and in Takuma's hands was a weapon that shined white as if it were heated to an extreme level. Takuma dunked his hand and the item into the trough of water and steam erupted out. Naruto waved the steam away and as it dispersed the dark-haired young man was holding a very large kunai. These gloves have allowed me to mold metal and shape it so that I may create things at a faster pace. If I make things this way, then they are able to channel chakra, unlike other weapons. Takuma said, placing the kunai on the anvil. Takuma gripped the bottom of the gloves and started to slide them off, and as he did so the metal covering his fingers slid back. I am able to make weapons and Emi here has been able to do the same thing. These gloves have really helped us with making items. But if they're so special, Naruto said, looking at the gloves as they were placed in his hands. Why are you giving them to me? Well, we aren't really giving them to you, yet. Let's say we are lending them to you, and if you can use them to such a degree like us, I might be inclined to give them to you. But if you do, then you can't make all those things you normally would be able to. Naruto exclaimed, confused. Why would they give him such an invaluable item? Naruto could not grasp what was going on, and his face clearly showed it. Takuma grinned and ruffled the blonde's head. Kid, call it a little experiment on my part. I know who you are and I've seen how people treat you. But I think everything that has happened to you is unfair. But your work. Takuma held his hand in front of Naruto, and to the boy's surprise the palm of Takuma's hand started to glow blue. I've been using those gloves since I was 10. I've been able to do what you just saw without using those gloves for years. Emi just recently mastered being able to do that with no help from the gloves. Takuma started to head back into the shop with Emi skipping after him. Trust me, Naruto, I see great things in your future. After thanking both Emi and Takuma profusely, Naruto left the shop and headed out towards the training ground he was supposed to meet Jiraiya at. His outing to see the Oshiro siblings was only his lunch break, so he still had the rest of the day to train with the self-proclaimed sage. Naruto made it to the field to see Jiraiya standing in front of the river. The man seemed to be in deep concentration. Naruto ran over to the man and stopped in front of him. Oi Ero-sennin, you okay? Naruto asked. Jiraiya shook himself out of his daydream and looked down at his young charge. Yeah, I was just thinking. So you ready to finish training for today? Naruto nodded, smiling brightly, and Jiraiya noticed the gloves Naruto had earlier today were still with him. Deciding the boy would tell him about it later, the two of them walked to the middle of the field. Right, well, before your little lunch break we were working on conditioning your body so that it could handle moving at high speeds. For the rest of today we are going to put what you learned to practice. Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded, and then the two stood at ready facing one another. Jiraiya started the spar off by reaching behind him and tossing a salvo of shuriken at the boy. Naruto quickly ran through the 3 seals he needed before he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Jiraiya turned behind him as a cloud of smoke erupted forth, and Naruto ran out of it with his arm pulled back. Jiraiya brought his arm out to block, and Naruto's fist smashed into the arm guard on the Sannin's forearm. Naruto pulled back his fist and then started to circle around Jiraiya, not unlike how he saw Lee doing during his preliminary match. Though Naruto knew he was nowhere near as fast Lee when he was doing this, the boy could see that he was getting faster. Jiraiya watched Naruto move around him and focused on the blonde before shooting his foot out, hoping to catch the boy with his geta. Naruto ducked to the side and rushed towards Jiraiya, who was hoping for this outcome. You're too predictable, boy. Jiraiya yelled as he pivoted and brought his palm out to smash it into Naruto's head. The appendage bounced off Naruto's headband, and Jiraiya brought his hand down 3 more times, causing Naruto to stumble backwards in pain. Naruto growled lowly and rubbed his head, trying to get his vision to stop swimming. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The training ground was covered in smoke, and facing Jiraiya was about 50 Narutos. Get him! Naruto yelled as clones yelled out their agreement. Jiraiya dodged to the left and right while occasionally dispersing a Naruto that either got too close or that tried to attack him. Goma Goma no Pistaru. Jiraiya flipped over the stretching arm of Naruto while a clone jumped into the air above him. The Sannin narrowed his eyes as he saw the clone charge up a Raygon and then fire the bullet of chakra down at him. Using a quick substitution with a nearby Bunshin, he watched as it was destroyed and the clone that fired the Raygon dispersed after using its last bit of chakra for the blast. Jiraiya looked at the mass of clones surrounding him, all staring at the man with narrowed eyes. As if a switch was flipped, all of the Narutos charged forward with a loud cry. Jiraiya tensed in anticipation before jumping high into the air and flying through seals. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. The original Naruto yelped before jumping away. Damn, I need to catch him off guard. Naruto looked around at his remaining clones and called one over to him. If his idea worked with Kiba, then who's to say it won't work now? Jiraiya landed back to the ground and surveyed how many clones were left. It was down to about 10 clones compared to the original 50. Just then, he saw 2 blondes jump into the air behind him so that they were in front of the sun. Jiraiya frowned at the light but praised the boy for using the light to temporarily blind him. Naruto grabbed his clone and lobbed it at his teacher and placed his hand in a seal, transforming the flying clone. A puff of smoke shrouded the clone and Jiraiya curved his eyebrow, then cursed loudly when a roaring fire burst forth from the smoke. Hope this works. Here I come, Ero-sennin. Miniryu, Gokakyu, mimic the flow, grand fireball. Jiraiya flipped away and stared transfixed at the spot where the fire hit as it burned the ground. The fire then burst into smoke, but the damage to the ground was done. Kami, that was surprising. Jiraiya whispered, still a bit shaken up. The original Naruto dropped back down the ground panting. Jiraiya, sensing an opportunity, sprang forward and dropped Naruto to the ground, having the boy face down while he held his arm behind his back. Damn, and here I was hoping to catch you with that last move, Naruto said as he leaned against a tree while drinking from a canteen. The spar had ended and the rest of clones dispersed once Naruto was put into the ground. That was quite a shock, I'll admit, but I'm not a Sannin for nothing. Jiraiya looked down at Naruto as he contemplated what just happened. As he was thinking, Naruto popped back up and looked at the charred ground that he had made with the clone. So it did work. Maybe I can finally do that. Naruto grinned as he placed his hands into a seal. Jiraiya didn't like the way Naruto said that and pushed off the tree he was leaning on to stop the boy. He was too late, sadly, and Naruto called out "Henge" before being consumed by ninja smoke. Jiraiya waited with bated breath, and when the smoke started to disperse so that he could see something, Naruto screamed loudly in pain. The man quickly rushed off of the side of the tree and waved away the smoke so that he could see the boy. Naruto looked normal except for the fact that he was yelling in pain and would sometimes vomit, stopping his own screams of agony. Jiraiya immediately picked the boy up and rushed to the hospital, not noticing as Naruto fell into unconsciousness. Naruto woke up and rubbed his eyes blearily. As he took in his surroundings, he realized he was in a hospital. Next to the open window was Jiraiya, who looked down at the village with a worried frown. "What did you do back there?" Jiraiya said. Naruto shook his head to get his bearings and tried to remember what happened. The memory of his pain came back and Naruto winced. Maybe trying to transform his body into the resemblance of Luffy again wasn't a good idea. Last time he vomited, this time must have been worse because he was already burned out from fighting Jiraiya. "I tried to transform my body into rubber. I figured since I got transforming my clones into metal and fire, I was ready now," Naruto said. "Apparently not yet. I think we need to have a talk about this special transformation that you have." Jiraiya walked to Naruto's bed and sat down in a seat next to him. "You've done something that I've never seen or thought possible. You are actually able to transform, and it isn't an illusion like it is supposed to be." "You mean like that layer of chakra that is an illusion?" "I talked to Ino about this already. I don't know the specifics, but apparently something happens that's different. But I don't understand. Why can't I get my body to change to rubber, but I was able to transform into a dog during my prelims, while also turning the clones I had into metal slabs, turned that one clone into fire, and hell, I even turned myself into a Fuma Shuriken during my trip to Nami. What is going on?" Jiraiya listened intently and thought about what Naruto told him. He may have an idea as to what was going on and how to explain it to Naruto. "Okay Naruto, let me try to explain what I believe is going on. What you do with your transformations at this moment is make that layer of chakra that should be an illusion real. To anybody else, if they tried transforming into something, then you could pass your hand through that layer of chakra, thus disrupting the illusion. You are changing chakra, which to me is an incredible phenomenon." "What's a phenomenon?" "It's basically a miracle. Anyways, now as I was saying, I believe what you were trying to do back there was way beyond your abilities, but I changed into fire. Metal even. What is changing my body into rubber compared to those?" "That's just it Naruto. You didn't change into those, your clones did. Do you know what shadow clones are? They are basically large masses of chakra made solid. You are inherently using your abilities to transform that huge chakra mass into anything. Chakra is energy Naruto. It is the mixture of physical and spiritual energy, but it is still energy. Until you can figure out how to not only transform chakra but your body as well, then you won't be able to change into that rubber form you desire. When you transformed yourself into that shuriken and the dog, you were making what would normally be the illusionary layer of chakra real. For your rubber style, there is no illusion, you need more training to be able to pull off changing your whole body to that degree. I'm amazed you're able to change your arms, since what you are doing is transforming your whole body structure using chakra as the catalyst." Naruto stared blankly at the wall as he tried to comprehend what the Sannin said to him. Jiraiya had thrown in so many complicated terms and words that it took the boy some time to figure out what he meant. After sitting in silence for a while, Naruto looked up to Jiraiya. So basically you're telling me that if I want to change into something else using chakra to coat my body then I can, because I'm basically making the illusion people see real. But if I want to change my body as it is, I need more training. Jiraiya nodded and Naruto slumped back into his bed. This is so confusing. Naruto sighed. Jiraiya chuckled at Naruto's frustration. We could just chalk everything up to the wonders of ninja arts. There are still many things that even the smartest of shinobi can't explain because the ninja skills are a mystical art passed down from long ago. But anyways, let's skip the history lesson for now. Jiraiya said as he got up and walked to the door. I'd be considering you very lucky, Naruto. Naruto tilted his head in askance. Imagine what would have happened if you tried turning your body into fire like you did your clone. I'd be sweeping you up, ha ha ha. See you tomorrow, kid. Naruto watched Jiraiya leave and gulped. Maybe this month off would be good for him to learn a little more about how far he could go with his transformation abilities. On the plus side, he did learn that turning his clones into completely different things is possible, which opened up a new way of fighting for him. The Maniryu mimicked the flow. A groan escaped Naruto's mouth as he rolled in the hospital bed. In just a month he was already in the hospital again. It seemed like he was in this bed just the other day, but he knew that couldn't be the case. Time must fly from one hospital visit to the other. Yesterday had been quite the experience for the young boy. He had not only met the boss of the Toad's summons but met the cause of much of his hardship. In more or less words, the Kyubi no Kitsune was a bitch. It tried to stab him with its claw and then laughed at the boy's bravado. Naruto had been pushed over the edge and had been forced to retreat to his mind to save his own skin. And by pushed over the edge, if anyone asked, Naruto would say he was literally pushed over the edge. That damn pervert of a sensei actually threw him off a cliff. Naruto couldn't believe he actually did that just so that he could meet with the Kyubi. Meeting the fox wasn't a very fun experience either. Naruto screamed as he tumbled down into the darkness of the ravine. The boy's life flashed before his eyes as he fell, and he couldn't help but wonder why such an enormous safety hazard such as this cliff wasn't closed off. Naruto closed his eyes to wait for the end when he felt like he was no longer falling. Opening his eyes, Naruto found himself in a dimly lit hall with water up to his ankles. Above him were a number of pipes all crisscrossing in an intricate way. Naruto started to walk forward, feeling compelled to reach the end of the hall. As the hall ended, Naruto looked up to take in his new surroundings. He was in a huge space with darkness going in every way except for forward. Instead of darkness, what stood in front of him was an enormous gate that dwarfed the boy. The bars looked thicker than Naruto's body, and high above the blonde's head where the two cage doors met was a large paper with a seal on it. Naruto heard the sound of breathing coming from the other side of the cage and walked forward. Come closer, a voice whispered. Naruto continued to slowly step forward. When he was about 5 feet from the gate, a loud crashing sound frightened him and Naruto jumped back. A pair of gigantic claws had tried to grab Naruto and a roar was heard. What the hell? Damn these bars! If only that seal wasn't there, I would have eaten you, human. The voice roared. Naruto looked closer, and from the darkness of the inside of the cage a glowing red eye larger than Naruto appeared. You're the Kyubi! Naruto screamed in realization. The demon fox laughed maliciously, showing itself as Naruto yelled obscenities at the being inside the cage. What an amusing human you are. I will enjoy picking you out of my teeth, the fox growled. Shut up. You're the reason for everything, and it is time you pay me back. Give me some of your chakra so I can get us out of this situation. Naruto pointed to Kyubi and made a grabbing motion as he spoke. Oh, has the puny human come to ask for help? Ha ha ha, well, be grateful that your life is tied with mine. Here boy, Kyubi said, and as it spoke crimson chakra leaked from the cage towards Naruto, who stood glaring. Take my chakra and feel its power. You'll come to rely on me, you weak brat. Like hell, Naruto spat. If it were up to me, I'd never have your power running through me in the first place. Know this, fox, Naruto said as he started to disappear. I will never rely on you. And then the boy vanished from his mindscape back to the outside world. After gaining power from Kyubi, Naruto was able to save himself by summoning Gamabunta. After that he passed some weird test and became Gamabunta's underling. He always thought it was the other way around, before passing out. In a hospital bed is where he woke up, and he has been stuck there for 2 days already. Naruto groaned again and sat up. He was bored. The nurses wouldn't let Naruto leave till tomorrow because they wanted to keep him here for one more day of rest. They did not appreciate the fact that he was back in the hospital in less than a month, saying something about why fix him when he gets hurt again. His door opened and a basket of fruit appeared through the opening. "Ha! Hey Naruto, how you doing? Heard you were in the hospital," Shikamaru said as he walked through the door with the fruit basket in hand. "Shikamaru, what are you doing here?" Well, Chuji got sick after eating too much and I decided to visit him. Too bad he can't eat this cause my mom made me come and give this to him. Man, what a troublesome woman, Shikamaru said with a sigh. Naruto chuckled and the two reached for the fruit. Naruto suddenly had a very evil gleam in his eyes that made Shikamaru look at the boy in confusion. "Hey Shikamaru, let's eat in front of Chuji." "Naruto, you're evil, but hey, if this makes it so he learns his lesson then let's go." The two of them walked down the hall when they were hit with killer intent that radiated from the room they passed. Naruto opened the door and was shocked to see that Gaara boy standing over an unconscious Lee. His sand was poised to strike and ready to kill Lee when Shikamaru quickly dropped the basket of fruit and sent his shadow towards Gaara. Gaara's hand stopped midway from Lee and a look of shock ran across his usual emotionless face. Naruto came running forward and smashed a fist into Gaara's cheek, eliciting a shout of pain from Shikamaru. "Oi, what are you doing here?" Naruto yelled, ignoring Shikamaru's irritated scolding. "It is obvious, isn't it? I'm here to kill him," Gaara said quietly. "Why?" "You already beat him," Shikamaru said, trying to hold his shadow mimic technique as long as he could. "This doesn't concern the Chunin exams. I just want to kill him." "Oh yeah, then you're going to have to go through me first then," Naruto growled. "Naruto, shut up. You've seen this guy fight. He's a demon." "Don't worry Shikamaru. If he wants to see demons, I've got a real one inside of me." "A demon you say?" Gaara's head went down as his hair shaded his eyes. "When I was born the Ichibi no Shikaku was sealed into me by my father, the Kazekage. When I wasn't how he had hoped he sent assassins out to kill me. I didn't know what I had done to deserve anything and I didn't know what pain was. That was until my uncle Yashimaru came to kill me. From then on I learned my true purpose. My purpose is to kill all so I may feel alive." Sand erupted from the large gourd that was on Gaara's back and Shikamaru yelled in panic, dispelling his Kage-mane. Naruto was frozen in a mixture of fear and realization as the sand came upon him and his friend. He's just like me." A green blur crossed his vision and there was Guy with his hand out disrupting the sand wave. He had saved the two boys and told them to keep it in the exams. Naruto left from that room while gulping. It wasn't just Niji he had to worry about. Gaara was also an opponent he had to defeat. Gaara was also a demon container. The end of the month off for Naruto was coming closer to a close and every day of that month had Naruto training as hard as he could with the Sannin. At the moment he was currently behind a tree catching his breath while his clones distracted the man. Placing his hands into a seal, his body was shrouded by smoke, and when that cleared a large hawk had taken his place. After his and Jiraiya's discussion about the different aspects of his henge, Naruto had trained vigorously, testing his limits. Transforming into a bird was one of his more difficult transformations compared to when he turned into Akamaru, due to the fact that even though it was him still inside of that henge bird, he still had to learn how to make the chakra over him as realistic as possible. That meant he had to figure out how birds could fly, and that meant reading. He hated reading. But it did help him transform until he could truly mess with his body composition. Back to the present, Naruto focused on the fight now and waited for the right moment to rush out. He saw one of his clones jump on Jiraiya's back and another four grab his arms and legs. As good as time as any, Naruto in his hawk form flew forth and glided so he was above Jiraiya. Not being able to hold the hawk form for a long time, Naruto was forced to drop his henge, but it was okay for him because he was already into position. As he free fell from the sky, Jiraiya noticed a shadow on him get larger and larger. Throwing off the clones in a hurry, he looked up to counter Naruto but was too late as the boy threw out a fist that was glowing slightly with chakra. "Shot again, shotgun!" Naruto yelled as his fist let loose a round of little bursts of chakra that were smaller than his Raygon blasts. Jiraiya cursed and quickly dove underground using a doton while the chakra salvo peppered into where he just was, effectively dispersing the clones. Naruto landed and looked around frantically for where the other man was when he felt a pair of hands wrap around his ankles. Wah! Doton, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, Earth Release, Headhunter Jutsu. Jiraiya said as he pulled himself from the ground while Naruto tried to pull himself out of the ground. Damn it, now I know how Suki felt. Get me out Erosenin. Naruto yelled. Nice try today brat. Jiraiya laughed. You're getting better but you'll never beat me. Jiraiya pulled Naruto out of the ground and held the boy in the air while Naruto brushed himself off of all the dirt. Fine Erosenin, you win this one. So we done today? Naruto asked as he was set down. Oh, you got some plans? You finally get a date brat? Jiraiya asked, pulling out his notebook. Naruto growled and smacked Jiraiya in the head with a loud bonk. No you pervert. I wanna go eat at Ichiraku's and I have something I need to work on before this month is over. The end is coming soon you know. Naruto said. Oh so you have some mysterious technique that you've been working on? Why not let me help? I am teaching you this month you know. Jiraiya said to the retreating boy. Don't worry Erosenin, I'll show you when it's finished. Hopefully I'll be done with it by the finals. After leaving the training field Naruto headed over to the ramen stand and slid into his favorite seat. Hey, there's our favorite customer. You don't come here as often as you used to. Teuchi said when he saw Naruto. Sorry old man, Naruto laughed scratching his head just been training hard for those finals. You wanna see me win right Ayam-chan? The older girl giggled while putting a bowl in front of the boy. Of course Naruto-kun. Can you tell us what you're working on? Ayam asked while Naruto scarfed down his first few bowls of ramen. Sure, I'll even show you after I'm done. Naruto grinned. Naruto spent a while in the company of the two people that gave him so much joy as a child. As the hour turned late Naruto looked into the sky and tried to judge the time. Well I'll be off. I'm going to work on something before going to bed tonight. Naruto said, jumping from the stool. I know you guys wanted to see something so watch this. I think now that I'm all rested up I can hold this longer. Naruto walked forward before his body went up in smoke. From the smoke flew a hawk that circled around and landed on the stand table. It looked at Ayam and Teuchi who both looked shocked before flapping away into the sky. Father. Yes sweetie, did he just fly away? Yes sweetie, cool. Naruto sat panting in the middle of a training area surrounded by trees. He didn't want anyone to see what he was working on, no not just yet. He wasn't done. Unbeknownst to him Jiraiya had followed him all day. After the boy had left the ramen stand he had come to this secluded spot to train on his own. Naruto was working on something and Jiraiya wanted to watch over the boy just to make sure he didn't hurt himself. It was late into the evening and the sky was dark as stars peppered the black sky. Jiraiya watched as Naruto stood back up and looked into the sky. Okay Naruto, show me what you have been working on. Jiraiya whispered as he felt the wind pick up slightly. The man could feel power starting to build from Naruto and suddenly he had to cover his eyes. The sky flashed blue for but a second and Jiraiya caught a glimpse of Naruto through the blinding light and his eyes widened. Naruto! What have you done? Welcome to the Chunin exam finals. I'm Sharingan and I'll be the proctor for today the matches, a man in the usual Jonin garb said. His headband was used as a bandana to cover the top of his slightly long brown hair and in his mouth was a Senbon needle. Hey Senbon guy, what happened to that other guy? Naruto asked. Gekko Heiate could not make it here so I'll be filling in for him. Also, with the recent dropping out of Dosu we will have Gaara vs Suki in the second round. And my name is Genma brat, Genma growled through his makeshift toothpick. Naruto stuck his tongue out before looking around at the large stadium surrounding him and his fellow examinees. Look alive you guys, Genma said. All these people are here to see you. Naruto gulped and readied himself before noticing that something was off with his fellow competitors. Hey where's Suki? Naruto whispered to Shikamaru who shrugged in response. Man I hope Kakashi-sensei didn't give her his bad habits. Up in the Kage booth sat Sarutobi in his long robes and Kage hat with his two guarding ninja. Walking up to him was another man in long robes with blue accents compared to Sarutobi's red and a Kage hat that held the kanji fourth wind on it and a face scarf to hide most of his face. Ah Kazekage Dano, I am glad you are here. I hope the trip wasn't too long, the Sandaime said. Oh no, it was fine Hokage Dano. Very little trouble along the way. The Kazekage said. I can't wait to see how these matches go. My kids have made it to the finals so I would like to see us start. Of course, of course. The Sandaime gave a curt nod to Genma who caught the gesture from the corner of his eye and decided it was time to start. Welcome to the Chunin exam finals. Genma yelled letting his voice echo across the stadium. The first round will be Hyuga Niji against Uzumaki Naruto. Will all other competitors please head to the waiting box? Everyone on the ground left except for 3 people, leaving Naruto and Niji staring at each other with Genma to the side. Man, I can feel the tension between these two. Naruto stretched his arms and loosened up his body. Checking his equipment, he felt for his kunai and shuriken holster, the gloves clipped to his belt, and his hip pouch. While this was happening, his eyes never left Niji's. Don't worry Hinata, I'll teach Niji a lesson for you, Naruto thought. Niji Nii-san isn't a bad person, and Naruto-kun. There have just been problems in our family, Hinata stuttered as Naruto faced her. Please help him. For me. Naruto stayed silent before smiling and walking past the confused girl. You know, if you hadn't come talk to me, I would have used all my power to kick your cousin's ass. Hinata blushed at Naruto's choice of words, but he continued. But you really care for him, and that says something about you. Naruto continued to walk towards the stadium and looked over his shoulder. I used to think you were really quiet and weird, but I know that you still care deeply about others. Haha, you know, I like people like you. You look like you have something you want to say, Niji said to Naruto. Naruto finished stretching and held his fist out to the pale-eyed boy. Only what I said to you before. I'm going to kick your ass. But now I'm doing it for another reason. Genma stepped between the boys and held his hand up. Are you both ready? The 2 genin nodded. Alright then, fight. Genma dashed backwards waiting for the clash, but none happened. Naruto looked at Niji, who stood there with his arms crossed and a superior smirk on his face. Up in the stands, many people were confused as to why Naruto, the most hyperactive ninja, did nothing. None were more confused than his fellow genin in the audience, who had decided to get seats together. What's going on? They're just looking at each other, Kiba said. I would have expected Naruto to start immediately. Yeah, what gives forehead? Ino asked Sakura. I don't know. Maybe he has a plan. Right after Sakura said that, Naruto squatted down and jumped, but to the surprise of many he jumped backwards in a number backflips till he was a good distance away from Niji. This should enough to surprise him, Naruto muttered before walking forward. His casual walk sped up till he was sprinting at the still Niji, who uncrossed his arms with a shake of his head. A frontal attack. I thought you were smarter, but I guess not, Niji said in condescending tone. Oi, you idiot. I said do something, but I didn't mean do something stupid. Ino yelled. Naruto grinned as he closed the distance, and just as Niji lunged forward with a palm strike, Naruto's form blurred from view. Niji looked shocked and turned his head side to side hastily to look for the blonde. A second after that, Naruto blurred back into focus behind Niji and threw out a harsh kick to Niji's back. The Hyuga was sent sprawling forward and looked behind his back in fury. I wanted to learn a move to use in battle that didn't take hand seals in that battle like Shunshin to raise my speed. However, I was limited for the month I was given. I didn't have the patience to learn Soru, shave, and how to stomp my feet so many times, and Shundo, instant movement, seemed like it had a lot of drawbacks until I could master it. I wanted to learn Shunpa, flash steps, but as I said before, the month time limit given didn't give me enough time to raise my speed to a needed level, and don't even get me started on how the hell Sonido, sound ceremony, is used. So I decided to use something right now that complements my abnormal chakra reserves. After Naruto's little summary, he again blurred from sight and appeared a few feet in front of Niji. I learned Hirenkyaku, flying screen step. Back up in the stands, the Konoha genin and other contestants were amazed. Alright Naruto, kick ass. Kiba yelled. Whoa, who knew Naruto knew how to start the fight? Ino said, shocked. Niji seethed but then composed himself and stood back up. That was surprising, I must say. But let's see you try that again. Naruto grinned and dropped low. Gladly, his form blurred, and this time he appeared to the side of Niji. Naruto was shocked when he threw out a punch and Niji dodged to the side while throwing a palm strike that sent Naruto reeling back. Naruto landed on the ground and slid a bit before popping himself up. He coughed a bit and looked at the other boy, who was smirking. Did you forget who my sensei was? You may be faster now, possibly as fast as Lee, but I've been learning how to fight people using speed for longer than you've been a genin, Niji said. So what do you have to say to that? Naruto chuckled, and that chuckle turned to a full-blown laugh that made Niji and Genma confused. You know what I say, Niji, Naruto stated, getting up and dusting off his clothes. I say that I think I'm going to like fighting you. Naruto blurred forward and Niji activated his Byakugan. The first round of the finals had begun. Chapter 10, Let the Mimic Kick Now. Naruto blurred forward and appeared behind Niji, who didn't even turn around to send a kick at the blonde. Naruto quickly crossed his arms and blocked the kick while gritting his teeth as he slid back. With a growl, he slid to a stop and then ran at Niji's exposed back and threw a punch towards the back of the boy's head. Niji tilted his head to the side and then grabbed Naruto's arm. Niji flipped Naruto over his shoulder and Naruto landed on the ground with a grunt. Taking advantage of Naruto's prone form, Niji shot out his hand to strike the blonde's chest. Shit! Naruto kicked himself up and narrowly dodged Niji's finger jab. Using Hirenkyaku once more, Naruto rushed away so he had some distance between him and the Hyuga. How the hell do you keep blocking me? Naruto asked out. Haven't you learned, fool? With my eyes I have no weak points. Plus now I see how you use that technique of yours, Niji said. Well, don't tell the whole world, asshole. Damn it, I forgot you could see chakra and all the way around you from the prelims. But just cause you can see my chakra doesn't mean you'll know where I'll end up, Naruto countered. Naruto vanished once more and reappeared above Niji. He quickly transformed his arm and shot it down, Goma Goma no Pistaru. Niji dodged to the side and frowned. The idiot is right. I can see how he gathers an amazing amount of chakra under his feet, then use it to almost slide from one spot to the other, but I can't determine where he will end up. However, that doesn't matter. I've trained with Lee and Gai Sensei. Not only am I also fast, but with my 360-degree vision he can't surprise me, Niji thought. Niji looked at the arm that passed him and was finally able to observe it up close. Amazing. Even his chakra pathways are stretching. His move truly stretches his arm like rubber, the Hyuga muttered. Before he could strike it with a juken, gentle fist, Naruto brought back his fist and his arm turned normal once more. Tenten smirked up in the stands as she watched Naruto try to catch Niji by surprise. The kid may be strong, but Niji was on a completely different level. Blondie is going to lose, Tenten said. Sakura and Ino looked over at the other girl and frowned. What are you talking about? Naruto won't lose, Sakura said. Tenten was sitting a few seats above the girls and stared down at them. Kiba and Hinata also stared at Tenten with a confused frown. Niji can't be beaten. He is the strongest genin from our class and a prodigy when it comes to the Hyuga family taijutsu. Your teammate might be strong, but he will lose, Tenten said. No way Naruto would lose to that guy. I underestimated Naruto, but because of that I lost. Here and now I know that idiot will win, Kiba said while Akamaru barked in agreement. Hinata nodded with her teammate and looked back down towards the arena floor. Gee, good luck and Naruto-kun, Hinata thought while tapping her fingers together. Tenten shook her head and moved her head back to the fight. Believe what you want. Niji will not lose. Naruto slid across the ground as he dodged another strike from Niji. The boy huffed and brushed the dirt from his pants. Standing tall, he took a deep breath and smirked. You sure are one tough opponent, you know that. Niji scoffed and brushed a strand of hair away from his face, looking much better than his opponent. Like I said, there is no way you will beat me. Fate dictates that you are the loser of this match, Niji said. Naruto blew a raspberry while closing his eyes and made a shooing motion with his hand. You keep saying fate this and fate that. Well, fate can kiss my ass. Fate is what rules all. It is what says that I will win and that you will never be Hokage. Naruto's eyes snapped open at that and he growled. Oh, now fate can definitely kiss my ass. No one tells me that I won't be Hokage. First I'll kick your ass, then I'll kick fate's. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The arena was then clouded in smoke, and once it cleared, around 40 Narutos could be seen. Wow, that kid can create that many clones. He sure has a lot of chakra, said Kotetsu while he wrote down a few notes. Yeah, but if he doesn't use them smartly then he doesn't deserve the title of Chunin, Izumo replied. Niji looked at all the surrounding clones and frowned. He couldn't determine who the real one was at the moment because each clone had a separate chakra channel. These weren't normal clones after all. Attack dash! A random Naruto shouted. There was a yell of approval from the rest of the blondes, and that opened the floodgate for the small army of clones to attack. Niji clenched his teeth as he dodged a Naruto and then jabbed it with his fingers, dispelling the clone in a cloud of smoke. Two Narutos ran to the side of the boy and threw out their arms, hoping to hit Niji at the same time. Niji bent backwards and let the arms pass by his face. With quick movements he jabbed the two arms and dispersed the clones. As 3 clones rushed forward at Niji, another Naruto ran, then dropped down to slide at the boy from behind. Foolish, Niji muttered. A back attack is never going to work. Naruto grinned and his sliding form vanished, then appeared under and in front of Niji. What? You dash! A kick to Niji's chin sent him up. The 3 clones sped to the sides of the airborne boy. Zu dash! Ma dash! Ki! Each syllable was paired with a kick that sent Niji spinning farther up to a Naruto that was waiting for him above. Naruto Rindan. The axe kick that fell towards Niji was stopped by said boy's hand. Enough of this madness! Niji roared in fury, losing his composure. He continued to spin while bringing along a passenger and then threw Naruto down towards a bunch of clones that stood in front of the forested area of the stadium. The blonde hit the clones and all of them went up in smoke. Niji landed gracefully onto the ground and wiped the blood away from his mouth. I am done fooling around with you. Here I come. Niji sprinted forward, easily meandering around the clones and stopping in front of what he thought was the original. Letting your clones attack while you stayed in the back and watched was never going to work. My Byakugan easily locked onto you, Niji said as he struck the Naruto in front of him with a juken in the stomach. The boy hunched over and coughed out blood, and Niji smirked as the rest of the blondes around him went up in smoke. It's over for you, failure. The blonde genin grasped the arm that struck him and grinned. Sorry, but you failed this time. Niji's eyes widened in disbelief when the boy he thought was real dispelled in smoke. Spinning around, he saw 5 Narutos surround him as they flew in the air. You may be able to counter a couple, but let's see you stop all 5 of us. Each Naruto yelled as they descended on Niji. Niji closed his eyes to calm himself and then opened them slowly as he started to spin on his heel. Hakusho Kaiten, 8 trigrams palm rotation. Niji yelled as he spun faster and a dome of chakra formed around him, spinning in the direction he was. All the Narutos hit the dome and then bounced off of the shield. See that, my daughter, Hyuga Hayashi said to his youngest daughter Hanabi. That boy there is a true prodigy of our taijutsu. The 11-year-old girl looked up at her father in confusion. But father, is he not from the branch house? How does he know that move? Hanabi asked. His will is much stronger than any other Hyuga I have seen, except for one other. Hayashi finished quietly. Brother, what have I brought your son to? What the hell? What was that? Ino yelled. She was expecting Naruto to have hit the white-eyed boy with his clones, but that last move baffled her. That is Niji's ultimate defense. Nothing can penetrate the Hyuga's Kaiten, Tenten answered. Like I said, your friend has no chance against Niji. His defense is even better than that sand user Gaara. Just you wait, Sakura whispered. If I know Naruto, then I know he has something unpredictable planned. Each and every Naruto that was hit by the Kaiten blew up in smoke, much to Niji's frustration. Man, you didn't even let me transform those clones, a voice called out from the smoke while the body was hidden from the view of the audience. The ninja smoke blew away and Naruto was standing across from Niji with his arms crossed in front of his chest. Please do not think that that would have worked, Niji said back. I am not that Inuzuka that you faced during the prelims. If you keep up with your fighting, I will be forced to get serious. Naruto laughed. So you weren't serious back there? I made you reveal that Kaiten of yours. Do not flatter yourself. I only needed to show that I am strong to the examiners. Fine if you say so. Then I guess you won't mind me showing my skills then. Naruto grinned and summoned 10 clones behind him. Are you ready, Niji? 'Cause here I come. The group of blondes all faded from view and appeared above the white-eyed genin surrounding him from all sides. Naruto glanced at his clones and then focused back on Niji. So Naruto, show me this mimic attack or whatever it is you've thought of, Jiraiya said as Naruto faced him with a bunch clones behind the boy. Well, after I tried hitting you with my Miniryu Gokakyu the last time, I've been thinking of how I can truly use my clones. I have a bunch of ideas, but this one came to me when I was thinking of a new speed move for me to use. There is speed technique from this show and manga I know that is good, but it has drawbacks that I can't overcome at the moment, Naruto said. But there is another attack I want to use now that I can truly change my clones. Naruto tensed his body and put his hands into a seal. Koyunts, Sagitant Inimicum meme. Come together and strike my enemy. Naruto's clones all went up in smoke with a hand seal from the original. Niji scowled as his Byakugan took in the various changes in chakra. Miniryu, Sagita Magica, Series Flamma, Mimic the Flow, Magic Arrows, Series of Flames. Out of the clouds of smoke from the transformations 10 streams of fire in the shape of arrows shot down. Even with this attack you cannot pierce my defense. Kaiten! Niji yelled as he spun. The thin beams of fire flew at the dome then ricocheted off and shot in different directions. A few fiery arrows struck the walls of the stadium and dented the stone while also charring it before disappearing. Another group flew into the sky while one single arrow of fire flew to the examiner's booth. Get down! Izumo yelled. The magic arrow hit the wall behind the examiner's booth while the Chunin judging the match ducked quickly. The projectile of fire struck the wall and the cloth that covered it slowly started to go up in flames. Holy crap! Put it out, put it out! Kotetsu yelled. He and Izumo rushed to put out the fire while the other ninja in the booth ran through seals for a water jutsu. Just then the fire that licked the tarp popped away in a cloud of smoke leaving a partly burned curtain and a group of confused Chunin. Did the fire go out on its own? Kotetsu asked. I think so, Izumo answered. They both looked back to the fight and grabbed their clipboards. What a fight! Takuma and Emi stood in the crowd looking at the match. Both had a smile on their face as Naruto fought the Hyuga boy. Look at that Nai-san, Naruto-kun is surprising everyone here. Emi said excitedly. He'll win this, I know it. Takuma smiled as the crowd roared in excitement. Niji slowed his spinning and a swirl of dust and dirt blew around him like a fog. Once he was almost done, a figure sprang from the cloud of dirt. I knew if I got you spinning, that one moment where you stopped would be your weak point. All I had to do was wait for you. Naruto yelled as he pulled his glowing fist back. And now you can't use that Kaiten again until you regain your footing, so block this. Shot again. From Naruto's right fist a bombardment of small chakra pellets flew out as he threw it forward. Shit, he's right. He got me at the point where I'm still not fully set after my rotation. Damn, calm down. It's fine, I'll just crush his hopes with this. Niji thought as the chakra shots flew at him. He knew he could not dodge them all, but he still had to get his footing, so Niji dodged the first couple that passed him while getting clipped by one. Narrowing his eyes, Niji threw out his palm. Hack! Just as his palm was about to hit a blue pellet, he twisted his wrist and let the chakra in his palm out to trail behind his hand. Tate Sho, 8 trigrams shield palm. Niji continued to throw his hands out quickly and his strikes deflected all of Naruto's shotgun bullets. When the last of Naruto's attack was blocked, Niji took a breath and flicked his hand down. That it? Amazing, Hinata whispered. I've never even heard of that move. Kiba looked shocked at his teammate's stuttered comment and looked back down to Naruto. He created that? Oh, good luck, Naruto. God damn it. Now what am I going to do? Naruto thought. I don't want to reveal all of my moves this first round. If I get a chance, then I'll have to end it with that. I don't want to use my first. Naruto took a deep breath and let the air fill his lungs. He exhaled slowly and dropped back into a fighting stance. You keep getting better and better, Niji. But as I said before, I'm not going to lose this match. Naruto said. I made a promise to Hinata and I never go back on my promises. That is my Nindo. Why do you continue to fight for that weakling? Niji asked. She is nothing but a failure to her clan. She is a failure like you. Why do you keep saying all these things about her when she does nothing to you? She is your family for Kami's sake. Niji scoffed and looked into the sky. He was silent for a moment before he spoke once more. The fact that she is in the main house is enough cause for my hate. Main house. Enough of this. You do not need to hear the facts now. Niji dropped back into his stance. Perhaps I shall tell you why fate rules all if you happen to put up a good enough fight. Naruto growled at the comment, then placed his hands in a cross seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A cloud of ninja smoke obscured Naruto, and when it blew away there were 3 blondes. Don't count me out just yet. The 3 Narutos rushed forward and engaged Niji in taijutsu, making sure to dodge any strike that would harm or dispel them. One Naruto tried to kick Niji's feet out from under him, but he jumped quickly to dodge. Another Naruto tried to take advantage of Niji's airborne circumstance, but Niji backflipped and stuck his foot out to hit the clone. The Naruto jumped back hastily to make sure it wasn't dispelled and then once again went in for an attack. The fight became a deadly dance of attacking and dodging for the four figures on the arena. Up in the contestant box, Shikamaru looked down at his fellow Konoha genin. He didn't think Naruto would have progressed so far, but he knew this Neji guy was good. Maybe too good. Your friend seems to be having trouble, a voice to Shikamaru's side declared. The pineapple-haired boy turned his head and saw Temari staring down at the fight. He has pulled some amazing things off, but even in Suna the name Hyuga is known. Your friend may not have a chance, Temari said. Shikamaru grunted and looked back down to the fight. Don't worry about Naruto, Shikamaru drawled. Naruto is one of a kind. If you are hoping for a quick win from Neji, then I'll tell you now that Naruto will disappoint. Shikamaru heard a call of "Henge" from the floor and smiled. And there you go. Henge. Two Narutos yelled that had attached themselves to Neji's legs. Their bodies transformed and were replaced by a chain and iron ball that weighed him down, while the other Naruto grabbed Neji from behind. Pulling the boy into a full Nelson, the Naruto grinned. I've got you now. Don't be ridiculous. I know that these weights will dispel away once they run out of chakra. Once they do, I'll finish you off for your ignorance of being this close, Neji said behind his back. I don't have to hold you for long, the Naruto that held Neji chuckled. Just until he hits you. Wait, you're a clone. Neji looked toward the forest where a snapping sound was heard and Naruto was kneeling under a tree. The boy walked out from the shade and was holding his right wrist while his hand was starting to slowly become enveloped by a massive chakra. How? I transformed myself into a field mouse while I sent my clones towards you, Naruto said, cutting off Neji's full question. While you were intently focused on them, I scurried behind you into the trees to change back so I would be able to get a good view while charging as much as I can. Hold on, Ichi, cause I only got one shot at this. The now identified Ichi nodded his head and gripped tighter at the struggling Neji. Ye Lord. Mask of flesh and bone, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man, truth and temperance. No way. He isn't going to do what I think he is going to do. Kiba said. What's wrong? What is Naruto doing? Ino asked. From what we have seen so far, Naruto has been doing moves that resemble techniques from various shows. That arrow one he did is probably from something he's seen, but I'm not familiar with it. But the chant he is starting is something I know of, Kiba explained. Then what is Naruto doing now? Sakura asked. The chant signifies the start of a strong attack. Upon this sinless wall of dreams unleash but slightly the wrath of your claws. Naruto sang out as he held his hand forward while it glowed with power. His arm started to shake and he bit his lip in concentration to the point to where it bled. Let go, you insufferable clone. Neji yelled as he struggled against Ichi. Not going to happen, Neji. Ichi called back. Heido no Senjusen. Naruto ran forward a few steps, then threw his palm out and yelled, Skatsui, destructive art number 33 blue fire, crash down. A great blast of shining blue chakra the size of Naruto himself burst from his hand and careened towards Neji. Its edges blurred, giving the chakra ball the likeness of fire as it flew at Neji. Neji's eyes widened in horror and panic as the ball of energy flew at him and he tried struggling once more, but it was to no avail. It cannot end like. I will not lose. Neji roared. I am a Hyuga. The Sokatsui made impact and an explosion came forth that blew up a cloud of dust. Naruto dropped to one knee while holding his arm and took great gulps of air. I did it, the blonde said between gasps. I got him with it. Naruto struggled to get up and walked forward, confident he would find the unconscious form of Neji on the ground. Suddenly the dust cloud dispersed in a swirl of air that made Naruto hold his arms to his eyes. He narrowed his eyes to try and see what was going on, and when Naruto was finally able to determine what was happening, his heart dropped. In the epicenter of the blowing dirt and dust was a giant dome of spinning chakra that was swirling at amazing speeds. When the swirling stopped and the chakra dome vanished, there stood Neji with his arms out and feet spread apart. How? What? When? Why? Naruto babbled. Hakushojutsu Kaiten, 8 trigrams palm true rotation, Neji answered, cutting off Naruto, not unlike how the blonde did to him moments ago. A true impenetrable defense without the need to move. Your farce is over. Your clones are gone and you are too tired to use that Hirenkyaku. You are now within the field of my divination. Neji dropped down so that his backhand was raised high and his other was dropped low with his legs bent slightly. That move. That stance. Kami, how far has his hatred pushed Neji? Hayashi gasped. Father, what is the Jitsu Kaiten? Hanabi asked. A last resort defensive move Hanabi. It takes much more chakra than the regular Kaiten, but it gets rid of the drawbacks of spinning and that interval of time where you are open for an attack after. But Hanabi, please watch what happens next. Hanabi stared at her father confused, a move that shouldn't be known to a branch house member, let alone a genin level ninja. Hakro Kujian Sho, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Niji sprang forward and jabbed Naruto with his fingers twice while yelling the number of times he hit him. Naruto coughed and stumbled backwards trying to put up a defense, but Niji pushed forward. He jabbed Naruto again, doubling his strikes, causing the blonde to cry out. Niji started to speed up his finger strikes and doubled the number of attacks he would hit Naruto with. Finally coming to 64 strikes, Niji yelled out the number of times he hit Naruto and ended with a powerful palm thrust that sent Naruto tumbling backwards. Naruto lay on the ground coughing up blood as he groaned in pain. His eyes fluttered open and he looked towards where Niji was standing. Proctor, call the match, Niji said to Ginma. Naruto gasped in pain and rolled over onto his stomach. He didn't want it to end this way. Everyone was looking at him, appraising how he was doing. He would not give up. Well, if the blonde won't get up, the winner is dash. No, don't stop. Naruto yelled out as he pushed himself up slowly. I'm not out of this just yet. Why do you continue to get up? Niji called out. Impossible, how is he even standing? I closed all the vital tenketsu needed to cast any jutsu. He should be on the ground unconscious. Naruto coughed again, spilling blood onto the ground and braced himself against his knees. Because this is my chance to prove your fate wrong. To show that I was meant for something more than what everyone first thought of me, Naruto said between breaths. This is my fight to fulfill a promise to a friend to save her family, and I won't ever give up. Naruto stared Niji straight in the eye, showing his conviction. You know nothing of our family, so it is no business of yours to promise anything to that girl, Negi hissed. What is wrong with you? What can be so bad that would cause such tension in a family? Niji looked down and reached for his head and took off his headband. When it was removed, he looked back towards Naruto, showing a manji symbol with lines coming from the side of it. This is the caged bird seal of the Hyuga. All branch house members carry this seal as symbol of their fidelity to the main house. We are the protectors of them. I received this symbol when I was only 4, when my father was still alive, Niji said. My father was the brother of the clan head of the Hyuga. They were twins. Because my father was born second, he was branded a branch house member while my uncle was put into the main house. The stadium seemed oddly quiet to Naruto as he listened to Niji talk about the Hyuga. When I was 4, I finally met my cousin Hinata-sama. She was just as meek and worthless back then as she is now. I remember the day we were watching her and my uncle practice. That was the day I learned what a main house member could do to a branch house member. Niji was silent for a moment. What can they do? They can kill us with only a hand seal. My father and I were sitting and watching when he suddenly doubled over, screaming in pain. Hayashi-sama walked over to where he was screaming, and I was trying to comfort my father and told us to know our place. Do you remember when Kyumo tried to kidnap someone from the Hyuga disguising it as a peace conference? I vaguely remember hearing about that when I was younger. Kyumo had tried to steal Hinata-sama during their peace negations. When my uncle killed the kidnapper, it was my father that was given as retribution. Kyumo, thinking it was Hayashi-sama, accepted my father without knowing that our seal made it impossible to harvest the Byakugan. My father died as a replacement because of this seal. Wow, that's some pretty heavy stuff, Takuma said. The crowd was not as quiet as Naruto was thinking and was still yelling for the match to continue. Many had no desire to learn of the dark history of the Hyuga. The only people who were listening intently seemed to be the people at the front. For example, Takuma could see a Hyuga in the front row with a grimace on his face as Niji spoke. That might be the Hyuga clan head that Niji guy is yapping about. Oh. Emi said. What? That Hyuga boy shouldn't have said that to Naruto-kun. You, with your constant smiles and idiot-like demeanor, you have no idea what it's like. You have no idea what it is like to have a seal ruling your life, ruining it and labeling you, Niji yelled at Naruto. Naruto froze for a second and his head dropped so his hair shadowed his eyes. The pain of feeling alone and the memories of past flooded him. He had no idea. Yeah, I know what you mean, Naruto whispered. Excuse me, I said I know exactly how you feel. Naruto screamed while raising his head up. Niji recoiled at sheer emotion in the boy's sapphire eyes. I know what it's like, so you don't have to tell me. You aren't the only one who is suffering, plus what about Hinata? She seems like she really wants to connect with you, but all you've done is push her away, even going as far as to crush her emotionally and hurt her. You say the branch house is supposed to protect the main, but if that is true, then you have been disregarding your duties. You have been defying fate. Enough. You cannot fight any longer. Your tenketsu are closed, so you can no longer access chakra, Niji said. Just give up or I will be forced to truly finish you. Damn, he's right. I can't feel my chakra. I need something to get my chakra going, Naruto thought as he closed his eyes to try and access his chakra. Anything. Naruto felt a rush within his brain, and when he opened his eyes he was no longer in the arena. He was within his mindscape in front of the Kyuubi. Anything, boy? Naruto stared at the giant fox with hazy eyes. Just enough to open my chakra points. I only need a little so I can use my own chakra. This is my battle, Naruto breathed. The Kyuubi let out a malicious laugh and a small stream of chakra flowed towards Naruto. The boy looked at the crimson energy apprehensively but let it come, seeing as it would give him the ability to use his own chakra. Suddenly a wave of red chakra came forth from the cage that housed the demon kitsune while it laughed madly. No, 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 and no. What are you doing, you stupid fox? Naruto yelled as the chakra engulfed him and he was thrown from his mind. You asked for it, boy. The Kyuubi cackled as Naruto left. Proctor, I am going in for killing blow now, Niji said while Naruto was hunched over suddenly. It is your choice to stop me. Humph, cocky brat, Genma whispered and started to raise his hand. Just then the two people other than Naruto who were on the arena floor felt a great pressure upon them. What is this? Niji grit out. He slowly raised his head to look at Naruto and gasped. Around Naruto the small rocks and pebbles started to roll towards him and rise slightly into the air like an unseen force was lifting them. The air around him became distorted and blurry. Suddenly the boy threw his head back and let out a scream. Graph! Red chakra exploded off of Naruto and encompassed him. Wind howled and buffeted Genma and Niji as Naruto clenched his fist against the great amount of power he was emitting. This air, it actually hurts. Niji thought while he covered his face with his arms. Across the whole arena everyone could feel the uncontrolled power that emanated from Naruto. Shit, this isn't good, Asuma said as he covered his eyes. The kid is using too much of Kyuubi's chakra. He and Kurenai were in the front row seeing as both their students were in the finals. But even if they were close, all the ninjas could feel the power from Naruto and the oppressive aura he was giving. Should we stop the match? Kurenai yelled over the wind. I don't know if we can. Damn it. Naruto yelled as he felt the changes that Kyuubi's chakra did to him start to take effect. His hands were clenching and unclenching, no doubt changing into claws, and his canines felt sharper. If I don't get control of this, then I'm going to go berserk. Looking to his side, Naruto quickly grabbed the gloves he received and held them up. I didn't want to use this, but because of the fox this is the only way to direct this power in my own way. Through the flurry of swirling chakra and wind, Naruto slipped on the gloves and let the metal plating set onto his fingers. Clenching his eyes he held his hands up, but a voice rang through his mind cutting off his motions. Foolish boy, you think you can control my power? Kyuubi's voice rang out maliciously. Niji, who was no longer covering his eyes, stared at Naruto in amazement. His Byakugan had showed him a collective mass of chakra starting from Naruto's navel course through the boy. The red chakra then swirled into a pattern of a fox that caused Niji to recoil in fright. What is this? Shut it, fox. You chose to give this much power and now I'm using it in my own way. Once you pumped me full of this chakra it became mine now, Naruto thought as he slowly brought his hands together. My power is absolute. You will never be able to harness it. Your power is mine. Mine. 2. Naruto's hands finally clasped together forming a seal. Transform. Naruto finished his inner conversation aloud, yelling the last word for all to hear. An explosion of smoke rocked the floor and covered Naruto completely. What made Niji wary was the fact that the smoke was laced with the red chakra, so his Byakugan couldn't see through the cloud. I'm glad it worked with this chakra, Naruto's voice was heard, but Niji tilted his head at the sound of this voice. It sounded much calmer, more powerful. But I really didn't want to use this in the first place. Naruto walked forward, eliciting a loud gasp from much of the crowd as he stood casually. Naruto's orange and blue jacket and pants ensemble was replaced by a more civilian-looking wardrobe. His ninja sandals were now a pair of white and blue sneakers under black straight jeans. An orange and white t-shirt with a hood attached to the back fluttered slightly in the wind. What were so surprising to many were Naruto's facial features. His once shining blue eyes that were always full of energy were a calm orange like burning embers. Naruto's lack of headband let his golden hair free, giving him bangs and a more spiky style. What replaced the Hitai just above the point between his eyes was a true phenomenon. Orange chakra sat atop his forehead like a ball of fire flickering to and fro in the breeze. Naruto's new appearance sent a sense of calm confidence towards Neji. It was like the boy knew that he would win no matter what, and with the powerful presence that the blonde was giving, Neji wouldn't doubt it. "What are you?" Neji asked in a hushed tone. Naruto tilted his head and scratched his cheek with a gloved hand. "Well, I guess I'm your local dobe." Naruto gave a small smile to Neji and raised his hands to the fire-like chakra on his head. The instant the gloves touched the chakra, they were engulfed in the orange chakra like they were consumed by a flame. "But if you'd like, you can call me Hyper Naruto." "So then, shall we get started?" Up in the stands, various reactions were going on. "Oh, Kami, is that Naruto? Look at him, he actually looks hot." Ino yelled. "Did you know he could do this forehead?" Sakura shook her head numbly. "This is all news to me," the pink-haired girl replied, shocked to the bone. "Damn, look at that." Kiba laughed. "Who knew he would pull this out of nowhere? Man, and I know where this came from too, I just can't remember." Kiba rubbed his head as he tried to collect his thoughts. Don't worry, Kiba-kun," Hinata said. "I'm as sure it'll come to you." Hinata had to admit that Naruto like this looked very dashing. In another location, Asuma and Kurenai breathed a sigh of relief as they felt the bloodlust that accompanied the Kyuubi's power vanish. Though from what they could sense, Naruto was still brimming with power, even though the only chakra that could be seen was on his hands and forehead. "Well, it looks like he was able to control the chakra," Kurenai said. "Yeah," Asuma interjected. "But for how long?" Higher above in the stands, Emi is screaming for Naruto. "Go, Naruto-kun. Kick ass. Use those gloves. Give him a good ol' one too." Emi yelled, punching the air. "Wow, so he can use those things," Takuma said as he placed his chin on his fingertips. "Now then, Naruto, show them all what they've been missing." The Kyuubi roared in anger. It had a chance to make its host go berserk, but something happened to cut the evil intent of its chakra. What happened? The Kyuubi slammed its head against the bars and howled again. "What did you do, human? What have you done?" A blue glow appeared in front of the gate and the kitsune narrowed its eyes. The glowing stopped, and when the Kyuubi took a good look, it roared again. There in front of the bars was an insignia that showed a large pointed shield with a bullet in the middle. Two pistols crossed above the shield with their barrels making an X above. Placed on where the pistols would cross was a seashell with flowing wings to the sides. "This isn't over, boy. You may have stemmed it, but you can't stop it completely." Neji took a shaky breath as Hyper Naruto took a step forward. In an instant his form flickered from view and Neji felt a viscous blow on his back. He didn't have time to cry out before another blow to his stomach sent him to the side. Once again Neji's scream was cut off as he was hit by some unseen force and pushed towards a new direction. Before long the white-eyed boy looked like he was bouncing back and forth in a small circle like a pinball. Neji was finally able to let a yell of pain escape his lips when he was thrown into the air. To much of the audience it looked like Neji had a very violent seizure, but to high-ranked ninja they could tell what was happening. Naruto was moving at such high speeds that he was hitting Neji countless times and then juggling the boy side to side to side. But what baffled many of the ninja, including Genma who was observing up close, was that Naruto would only appear for a second as a blur then move again. The boy was fast, very fast. Hyper Naruto finally stopped moving and stood with his back to Neji as the boy fell. He looked behind his back and scratched his head with a sheepish look on his face when Neji landed on the ground with a grunt. "Sorry about that," Naruto slowly said. "I don't exactly know my full capabilities when I'm like this, so if you get beat up a lot, my bad." Neji pushed himself up with a groan and held one of the marks on his arms. The chakra may not be fire, but there was so much of it that it still burned. That speed! He is even faster than Lee now. What happened? When he used that other move I was able to keep up, but now it's different. I need to be cautious. Neji spit out a glob of blood and pulled a soldier pill from his hip pouch. As he popped it into his mouth and swallowed, he felt a rush of energy flow through his body. Naruto tilted his head. I seem to recall you not wanting me to compare you to Kiba earlier, Hyper Naruto called out. But if I remember, he used those same pills. Soldier pills are ninja tools. Almost all ninja use them, not just the Inuzuka family. Neji rolled his neck and got into the Hyuga Taijutsu stance. It revitalizes the user exponentially for a time. Neji rushed forward and Naruto did too. Neji lunged with his fingers trying to jab at Naruto, but much to his frustration the blonde would dodge each strike fluidly. With a growl, Neji blurred out of view and appeared behind Naruto. Naruto's orange eyes widened and he jumped into the air, letting the other boy's hand fly under him. He vanished in midair and reappeared a few feet away on the ground. I didn't know you could move like that. Neji snorted and glared at the spot Naruto just was. Hyugas are masters of chakra control. It is a simple matter to direct chakra to my muscles to allow me to move in such a way. I don't use this style of fighting very much, but I believe this would be an appropriate time to use it. I'll say. My hyper-intuition barely picked up that last attack. Naruto crossed his arms in front of his face. Well then, shall we start the second act? Neji didn't respond and only tightened his stance. I'll take that as a yes. Hyper Naruto uncrossed his arms and the chakra on his forehead and gloves flared up and he rushed forward. Neji jumped high while Naruto threw his fist out, hitting the ground and creating a deep crater. Hack Tate Show. Neji brought down his palms, letting chakra trail from his hand while spinning his body. Naruto dodged the palm strikes but saw that he had twin ribbons of chakra closing in on him. With a curse he let out a blast of chakra from his hands and jumped high above the swirling trap. Neji didn't let Naruto get comfortable and went to hit him while he landed. Damn! Naruto said, dodging once more. However, Neji was getting faster and more precise with his strikes and finally landed a blow on Naruto's shoulder. The boy let out a bark of pain and threw his hands up to guard Neji's fingers. I can't keep this up for long. Even if I channeled Kyuubi's chakra so that I didn't go berserk, I still can't get rid of the true nature of this chakra. With so much centered at my brain, I can feel it slowly trying to take me over, Naruto thought as he lifted his leg to kick at Neji's stomach. It may give me the hyper-intuition, but it comes with a cost. I wonder how much difference this would be if I got to do this the way I had planned, with my own chakra. Naruto let another burst of chakra out from his hands, giving him a boost to throw a back-flipping kick at Neji's chin. I'm okay for now. I can still keep this form up for a little longer. With the potency of this chakra, I seem to have a bigger time frame than if I used my chakra. I just have to keep my mind calm so the chakra won't make me go crazy. Neji cut off Naruto's thoughts by flipping over the blonde and clipping him on the shoulder, but not without receiving a vicious kick to the face. Both boys skid to away from each other and stood staring at one another. Both looked tired and beaten, breathing hard as their muscles screamed in agony. I think we've given a pretty good performance, Hyper Naruto said between short breaths. Neji said nothing and continued to bring air into his lungs. How about we finish this? Naruto took one more deep breath from his hunched form and stood tall. A burst of orange from his hands pushed him up and he continued to rise higher in the air till he was level with the first row of audience members. Neji also took a breath and stood straight while gathering as much chakra as he could. He wasn't surprised at Naruto flying. After getting over his initial shock and fighting the boy, he was finally able to recognize who Naruto was mimicking. He may be a Hyuga prodigy, but he was still a teenage boy and the shows on the television were entertaining. He's flying. Emi stuttered as Naruto flew up. I've never heard of a ninja being able to fly. Is it those gloves that are letting him do this, Takuma? Takuma shook his head, still a bit shocked at how the battle was going. He probably wasn't the only one amazed, seeing as the crowd was in a frenzy, loving the action. They seemed to have forgotten the oppressive aura Naruto was giving off at first and were now ogling the fight. I don't think it's just the gloves, Emi, Takuma answered. Most of what we are seeing is all Naruto. The gloves are a tool like any other tool we sell, only they are one of a kind, passed down through our family only. This is the birth of a legend, Emi. And we helped make it. Takuma chuckled. Naruto looked down at Neji and Neji looked up at Naruto. Both knew this would be the final attack. Their final confrontation. Blue chakra started to secrete off Neji in a fine mist as he closed his eyes and spread his arms. Naruto lifted his right hand into the air while his other kept him aloft. The orange chakra engulfing his hand shrank, looking like it would die out. In an instant it erupted, and the chakra encompassing his hand grew to a point to where it was almost as long as his arm and as wide as his shoulders. It flared and flickered like a glorious fire and cast a glow upon his face. "Here I come." Naruto tilted forward before bursting forth and flying at Neji at incredible speeds. Neji waited till Naruto was close before unleashing his move while letting out a yell. Hakusho Jitsu Kaiten. Every ounce of chakra Neji could spare was pushed into this move, and as he yelled out his jutsu, a huge dome of spinning chakra surrounded him and shined blue. Naruto also let out a roar as he reached the dome. He brought his fist down, and his punch, covered in the great amount of chakra, clashed with the swirling dome of chakra. A moment of silence seemed to permeate the arena just before the two forces met, and then a low boom was heard. Air and chakra blasted out as Naruto's form pushed into the giant true rotation. Genma covered his eyes and grit his teeth as he pushed chakra to his feet to keep him in place. God damn it, what are these kids made of? Waves of powerful wind buffeted the crowd, even going so far as to hit the Kage box, much to the Sandame's shock. Orochimaru, still disguised as the Kazekage, widened his eyes. This power? What amazing power you have, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru thought. If I bring Suki to me, I may even get you to come too. Naruto pushed harder against the dome and could see the form of Neji through the chakra. With a yell, Naruto pushed with all his might and felt his fingers breaking through. Neji saw this and exerted more force into his jutsu, trying to bounce Naruto off. Why? Neji yelled through the howling wind. Why do you try so hard? Why do you keep going when you know that fate controls everything? Why can't you just accept fate? Because. Naruto yelled back. Because I believe that we control our own destiny. If you believe in fate, that's fine, but I won't be chained by it. You tell me it is your fate to be cursed with servitude by that seal. Naruto pushed harder and felt his hand shake from effort, but he knew he was breaking through. You do nothing to change your clan and say everything is ruled by fate. Fine, then I say don't do anything, Neji. If it's too hard for you to change your clan, then don't, because I'll change it for you. Naruto's hand broke through and time seemed to slow as he slowly flew down towards the shocked Neji. When I become Hokage, no one will suffer like that ever again. Believe in me, Neji, Naruto said with his hand forward and fingers splayed in a welcoming gesture, his orange eyes glowing with a look of sadness. Neji looked in wonder as Naruto fell, looking like an ethereal being with the chakra on his head and hands. He also slowly reached forward with a look of hope. The instant time seemed normal for the two again. An explosion blossomed forth. A bright light blinded everyone and a cloud of dust billowed forth. Genma coughed and tried to wave away the dirt. Who won? Who won? Ino screamed as the dust slowly started to disperse. Sakura held her hands in worry and peered into the smoke. Naruto. The arena cleared and two silhouettes were starting to appear. Neji was lying on the ground face up with his hand out. Grasping that hand and standing tall was Naruto, his form once again normal and the orange chakra gone. His blue eyes looked down at the Hyuga and he squeezed his gloved hand and smiled. Believe in faith, not fate. Believe in the future Hokage, Naruto said, letting the whole arena hear his proclamation. Neji was silent for a moment before sighing and letting go of Naruto's hand. My faith is in you, Naruto. I can no longer fight, Neji said. That was all the signal Genma needed to walk forward and hold up Naruto's now free hand. The first round of the Chunin exams is complete. Winner is Uzumaki Naruto, the mimic. The crowd roared and clapped with approval at the amazing battle. Naruto looked up at Genma oddly, who shrugged his shoulders. Congrats, kid. You've gotten yourself a nickname courtesy of me. Naruto continued to stare at Genma oddly before shrugging and walking forward. He smiled and raised his arms into the sky. I did it. Chapter 11, like Toy Shinobi. The first round of the Chunin exams are complete. Winner is Uzumaki Naruto, the mimic. The crowd roared and clapped with approval at the amazing battle. Naruto looked up at Genma oddly, who shrugged his shoulders. Congrats, kid. You've gotten yourself a nickname courtesy of me. Naruto continued to stare at Genma oddly before shrugging and walking forward. He smiled and raised his arms into the sky. I did it. The crowd roared in frenzy as Naruto continued to wave and smile. He turned around and slipped off the gloves, then clipped them back to his pants. Locating the stairs, he gave one last look at the medics that were carting away Niji before running towards the steps. As he walked up towards the contestants' box, he noticed how a lot of the crowd continued to clap for him, causing the boy to blush in embarrassment and laugh. "Hee, I knew I was awesome," Naruto said as he reached the contestant box. Once he walked in, he immediately felt a hand on his shoulder, causing him to look around. "Nice work out there, Naruto," Shikamaru said as he got off the wall he was leaning on, "though now that you set the bar it's going to be hard to beat that performance." "Man, now I'm going to have to try, so troublesome," Shikamaru sighed. Naruto laughed and punched the other boy's arm jokingly. "Better make it a good match, man. I hear that your mom can be real crazy when you don't try." Shikamaru only sighed once more and the two walked towards the other competitors. Back towards the Kage booth, Sarutobi was holding his head in deep thought. "What in the world have you been doing over this past month, Naruto-kun?" the Sandame thought. "You are extremely lucky I didn't sick the umbu on you for using the Kyuubi's chakra. Thank Kami you were able to keep yourself under control." Unbeknownst to the aged Kage, the disguised Orochimaru was also having thoughts about the young blonde. "Those moves are very interesting." With the boy's outrageous reserves and the power of the fox, Naruto could be S-class easily with the proper training, Orochimaru thought warily. "If I bring Suki to me I may have a chance to bring the boy too. However, if not, Naruto will no doubt scour the nations to find the girl." The snake Sannin leaned back and folded his hands on his lap. "That transformation needs to be studied. If the Kyuubi weren't in you, Naruto, you may have been a good body to take over. At the very least you would make a good underling." While the two powerful ninjas were left to their thoughts, Naruto plopped himself down on a chair and let out a deep sigh of contentment. That last match really took a lot out of the boy. Shikamaru was leaning back on the chair next to the boy and glanced at Naruto. The match was strange. There were too many things that Naruto did that didn't make sense. Shikamaru had never heard of a ninja that could fly, but there is a huge world out there. Maybe there was a jutsu that allowed one to fly. But the odd thing about what Naruto did was that chakra he used. What was that orange and red chakra? Where did it come from? Where did that bloodlust come from and where did it go after? Those were the questions that flew through the young genius's mind. Shikamaru had always seen how the villagers treated Naruto. The cold stares, the lack of acknowledgement, and the constant whispering was pretty hard to miss. Was it because of that chakra? The boy needed answers and Shikamaru always figured out what he wanted. If only he had the time to truly think about what was going on. Luckily his match wasn't till Suki got here, so he had some time to dash. Because Uchiha Suki is not present still, we will be delaying her and Sabaka no Gaara's match. Will Aburame Shino and Sabaka no Kankuro please come down? I forfeit, Proctor. Kankuro yelled loudly, receiving a chorus of booing and an unseen glare from Shino. Forfeit? Why would the guy forfeit? He looks perfectly fine to me, Shikamaru thought with a frown. If that match is done and Gaara and Suki's match is delayed, that means dash. Nara, Shikamaru and Sabaka no Temari please come down to the floor. Genma yelled. Damn it. Shikamaru moaned loudly and rubbed his forehead. Why, oh why did that Uchiha have to be late? Now his pondering will have to be put on hold. Alright Shika, you hear that? You get to go earlier. Naruto grinned from beside the boy. Shikamaru sighed and pushed himself off his seat towards the rail where he leaned over it. Temari had already flew down using her fan to catch the air currents down to the floor. Maybe I can just forfeit. That puppet guy did so why can't I? Shikamaru drawled. The pineapple-headed boy heard a cry of outrage from behind and watched as Naruto rushed forward. How did he have energy already? Man, how troublesome. Don't even think about it, lazy ass. If Ino hears that you forfeit and I didn't stop you, she won't just beat your ass, she'll beat mine. Naruto cried. The Nara closed his eyes and sighed again. Meh, it's fine. This is too troublesome anyways. I don't want to be Chunin, you know. Silence greeted Shikamaru. Naruto. He opened his eyes and noticed the blonde was no longer by his side. Looking over his shoulder, he saw Naruto behind him in a crouched position with his fingers in a tiger seal. Naruto, what the fu dash? Konoha taijutsu no ugi, sennin garoshi. Naruto shot his fingers forward and then all Shikamaru saw was the sky spinning. Temari stood in the arena floor annoyed. Why did she have to fight this lazy boy? He had no motivation whatsoever. She was about to yell for the genin to get down when a scream of pain and rage cut her off. The scream attracted the attention of the restless crowd and they all turned to the competitor's box to see Shikamaru fly from the ledge to the floor. The boy landed in a heap, blowing up a cloud of dirt, and lay there for a moment groaning in pain. Temari blinked in confusion and wondered what happened. Her answer came when she saw Naruto poke his head out and wave. "You're welcome, Shika. Go get her," Naruto yelled, grinning. The blonde grinned and looked to his side, seeing Shino and Kankuro giving him strange looks. "What? It's a very easy technique. My sensei was a jerk and taught it to me through experience. I can teach you too if you want." Kankuro shook his head vehemently while Shino shook his head once. "No thank you, Naruto," Shino said quietly, but if you really knew the boy you could hear the slight tremble in his voice. The Sennin Goroshi is indeed a disturbing technique. Naruto shrugged and looked back down towards the arena where Shikamaru was getting up. No offense to Shino, but Naruto wanted to go find Sakura and ask her how good he did. Plus he wanted to find Emi and Takuma. Besides, he didn't know that puppet user guy, and it looked like Shino was glaring at the boy. Not something Naruto wanted to get into. So with a quick wave and an explanation of where he was going, Naruto bounded off. Shikamaru pulled himself off the ground while Naruto left to find his friends, so he missed the chance to glare at his blonde-haired friend. "Oh, don't you worry, Naruto. Even a lazy guy like me revels in revenge," Shikamaru thought as he dusted his clothes off. The boy walked towards the center of the floor where Genma and Temari were waiting. Stretching a bit, he stopped in front of the Suna Kunoichi, who smirked at him. "Ready to lose, you lazy excuse for a ninja? How troublesome, let's just get this over with. Round 2 of the Chunin exams, begin." Shikamaru instantly pulled out a few kunai from his pouch and launched them at Temari. The girl scoffed and opened her fan a little so she could blow them off course. Her eyes widened when she saw a shadow moving towards her while her attention was focused on the kunai. Shit, a distraction. Temari jumped high into the air to avoid the shadow and opened her fan all the way. She glided above Shikamaru and then jumped off while snapping her fan close. With a mighty yell, she fell down upon the boy wielding the fan like a club. Shikamaru cursed and cancelled his jutsu so he could jump away. Luckily he did, because the impact made by Temari's fan caused a small crater that made cracks appear on the ground. "That thing can knock my head off my shoulders." Pulling a handful of shuriken, he lobbed them at the Suna princess and watched as she dodged them. Temari then shot a stream of wind with her open fan at him, making him jump out of the way again. Hiding in the trees, Shikamaru took a few deep breaths and contemplated the situation. "Okay, so she seems to be smart and knows my moves. If I can catch her off guard, then I can take her down with my Kage main. If not, then I can surprise her with my new move." Judging the time of the day, Shikamaru calculated the length of the shadow the trees gave and how far his shadow would extend. Making his hand sign, he let his shadow go and it crept across the ground towards Temari. Temari narrowed her eyes at the trees and was about to attack when she saw Shikamaru's shadow head for her again. Jumping back, she bit back a curse as it meandered back and forth like a snake trying to snag its prey. Finally the black line stopped and Temari smirked before using her fan to carve a line signifying the limit. "Looks like that's all you can do, punk." No answer came from Shikamaru as he continued to analyze the situation. His thoughts were cut short as another blast of wind from the Suna ninja was sent hurtling at him. For more blasts of wind flew through the trees, making the lazy genius jump around frantically. "I need to catch her off guard again, but how?" Thinking quickly, Shikamaru pulled off his vest and tied a kunai to it, making it into a makeshift parachute. Waiting for another wind blast, Shikamaru threw the parachute in the air just as the wind picked up, making his idea fly high above. Quickly using Kage main, he sent his shadow towards Temari, hoping to catch her before his chakra ran out. Temari watched as the shadow came curving at her again and shook her head. Why was the boy trying again? She had already found the length that the shadow could reach, so what was the point? Her instincts, primed through ninja training, made her jump back quickly, saving her from being caught in the now longer than she thought shadow. What the hell? Looking around, she spotted a part of the shadow that was thicker and looked up. Above the jutsu was Shikamaru's kunai and parachute combo, which gave him the extra shadows to lengthen his. "That boy is smart, I'll give him that. However, I'm not done yet," Temari whispered as she dodged to the side and spun in the air. "Kamaitashi no jutsu." A torrent of wind swept over the arena, causing a cloud of dust to be picked up. Shikamaru jumped from the trees and away from the devastation that riddled the forested area. He looked at the damage with frown and looked back to the girl. "Troublesome blondes, all of you, I swear," Shikamaru said, rubbing his neck. Slowly but grudgingly, the boy went into his back pouch and pulled out a lone kunai. On the handle was a piece of paper with writing on it. "Can't believe I have to use this, man, so troublesome." Up in the stands, Naruto decided to go see if he could find some people he knew. As he walked through the seats, he heard his name being called over the loud talking from the crowd. "Naruto-kun. Hey Naruto-kun, over here." Naruto turned his head to see Emi and Takuma smiling and waving at him to come over. Grinning, Naruto bounded over to the siblings. Emi gave Naruto a quick hug and Takuma patted his back after making the boy blush in embarrassment. He still wasn't used to this kind of positive attention. "That was a great match, Naruto. I couldn't believe you could use those gloves to such an amazing extent," Takuma said with a smile. "Well, yeah. Haha, I got the idea from a character named Suna." Takuma nodded but then looked serious for a moment. "But is it okay to be using IT's power?" Naruto nodded confidently. "As long as I stay in control, I will be fine. If I can do that, then I can keep hyper form up. Using my own chakra is a different story since I will be using my own energy." "Well, you have to admit that those techniques are amazing," Emi stated. Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. "Haha, thanks Emi-chan. Well, I am going to try to find my teammate, so I'll talk to you guys later." Naruto waved goodbye and started to run down the stairs trying to find any sign of Sakura. She had pink hair, how hard could it be? Seeing a flash of that exact color, Naruto rushed down the stairs and found Sakura sitting next to Ino with Kiba and Hinata beside them. "Hey look, it's Naruto." Kiba pointed at the smiling blonde and stood up to pat the other boy's back. "Man, that was a great match. I still can't believe you beat Niji." "Gee, good job and Naruto-kun," Hinata said blushing. "You did really good out there, Naruto. You pulled some crazy stuff out there," stated Ino. "Yeah, how did you do all that, Naruto? The new moves, that strange form, and heck, you even flew." Sakura wondered. "Haha, ninja secret Sakura-chan." Naruto gulped and scratched his cheek. Giving a brief explanation wouldn't hurt, and if he didn't he might get hurt for teasing the pink-haired girl. As long as he strayed away from the Kyuubi he would be fine. Well, some of those moves were based off of heavy chakra usage like my speed and Sharingan. Especially the Sokatsui. Other than that, it was just my henge. Sakura looked at the boy amazed at his progress. Naruto was getting so much stronger. What about her? Seeing Naruto push himself to get stronger was really making her feel like she needed to push forward. If Naruto is strong and Suki is too, then I need to push myself even more. For my team. I still don't get how your henge works. Kiba said. It almost reminds me of my Jujin Bunshin where Akamaru turns into me, right buddy? Akamaru barked in agreement in Kiba's jacket and tilted his head curiosity. Naruto shrugged. I don't know enough about your family techniques to compare, Kiba. In simple terms, let's just say my henge transforms the reality of chakra and transforms the reality of my physical body, to a certain point at the moment, Naruto said the last part quietly. He was still having trouble with changing his body, or physiology as Ero Sennin put it, and just couldn't get his whole body completely different yet. Hyper Naruto was the closest he has gotten to changing his whole body since, unlike the illusion to reality henge, the body henge didn't need a continuous amount of chakra to keep up, and hyper form didn't have a lot of difference to a normal body. All it needed was the amount of chakra needed to transform and he was set. Like his rubber moves. Once the arm was rubber, he found that a constant stream of chakra was no longer needed. Although even though he didn't need to keep using chakra to keep the henge, hyper form was a special case due to him needing to constantly use chakra to attack. Though both types of transformation did take concentration to keep up. That was why the illusion to reality transformations was both easier and harder at the same time, Naruto thought. Easier in a sense that with his shadow clones the sky was limit to what he could do with them since they were made of pure chakra. For him, he needed to be perfect in how the illusion over him was created. His bird transformation was the perfect example. The chakra covering him had to be done perfectly. Fake wings, fake hollow bones, everything fake was made of chakra and needed to be constantly supplied with it. Being a freaking shuriken was easy compared to animals. Kiba, with his extra sensitive hearing, heard the last part but didn't comment. It was true that his family's jutsu weren't a huge secret, but they were pretty well guarded, so it was no wonder Naruto had any information on them. But still, what was up with that crazy evil feeling red chakra had for a while? There was no way he was imagining that. Saving that thought for later, Kiba turned his thoughts to what Naruto had looked like during the final part of the match. He knew where it came from, but the answer was just out of his reach. "Hey Naruto, what was that thing you did at the end?" Naruto grinned broadly and crossed his arms. "That was my hyper form. I've been working on that forever. It allows me to FL dash. That's it." "Now I know where you got that from," Kiba exclaimed. Naruto laughed and scratched his head. "So you figured it out, huh? Well, you could say that in that form I'm reborn, yeah?" Kiba shook his head and chuckled. He knew he would figure it out. "It all looked very good, and Naruto-kun," Hinata said with a large blush starting to appear on her face. "I can't believe I said that. What if he thinks I'm weird for saying that?" Naruto laughed and patted Hinata's back and pulling the girl into a friendly hug, making the girl turn bright red. "Thanks, Hinata. I hope you enjoyed the match, and I hope Niji and you get along now since you guys." "Hinata? Oi, what happened? Hinata, are you okay?" Hinata had passed out with a smile due to the contact of Naruto touching her. Is she sick?" "No Naruto, she is fine," Sakura sighed. "So dense. Shouldn't you head back to the competitor's box?" "Oh yeah, I got to go. I can see Sheikah's match way better from there anyways." "Oh, looks like he is starting to do something big, so I better go. See ya." And with that, Naruto ran back. Outside of the trees, Temari stood with her fan out and tried to spot the Nara. Not seeing any sign, she growled and stuck her fan in the dirt. Shikamaru was closing his eyes, finalizing his plan. "I only have one shot at this, so I need to maneuver her into the right spot, then capture her. If this works, then I will only need 3 minutes." Shikamaru readied his arm and narrowed his eyes. "Starting now. If you won't come out, then I'm going to flush you out." Temari yelled, getting ready to bite her thumb. The sound of an object flying through the air made her jump forward so that she could dodge a kunai that lodged itself into the ground. Temari's eyes widened when she saw a tag on the kunai, and she rolled to the side thinking it was an explosive tag. When nothing happened, she stood up quickly and readied her fan. A dud? Then it was a distraction. Where is he then? A salvo of shuriken made the girl open her fan to blow them back, but she cursed and jumped away as she saw a shadow heading towards her. The shuriken stuck beside her and she stood with her fan out, growling. This boy was annoying her with his tricks and making her look like a fool. Settling down, Temari stuck her fan in the ground and bit her thumb once more, readying her finishing technique. However, a hissing sound made her stop and she looked over her fan at the kunai that was still in the ground. It wasn't a dud, it was a hand seal activated tag. But the explosion shouldn't hurt me too much when I'm behind the fan. Why would he set it off now? Suddenly, and much to her surprise, a flash of light blinded her and much of the crowd. When the light died down, Temari felt a kunai against her back and she froze in shock. Turning around, she was astonished to see the lazy ninja with his knife pointed at her back and half his body sticking up out of a shadow next to her like he was in water. How? Well, it was troublesome to do, but all my attacks were leading you to the exact spot I wanted you to, Shikamaru said as he slowly rose from the shadow till he was completely out of the ground. Temari chanced to look over her fan and saw a shadow leading from the shadows of the forest that connected into a line that went from the shadows of the kunai with the tag to the shuriken and curved to a shadow behind her. Looking up slowly, she gasped as she saw the makeshift parachute that he had thrown earlier. The shadow line started to recede towards the Nara as he looked down at the Suna ninja with his kunai pointed at her throat now that he was standing. But how did you get behind me? A new form of Shunshin? Shikamaru scoffed at that. Moves like that are such a drag to use for me. I used the Kage Sanpo, Shadow Walk. I can move through my shadow from one point to another without having to rush. Plus I'm sucked into it so I won't be seen. Shikamaru looked into the sky at the clouds and sighed. If only he was like a cloud, he wouldn't have to deal with the exams. I got you in 2 minutes and 42 seconds once I initiated my plan. You lose, checkmate, winner Nara Shikamaru. Genma yelled and the crowd erupted in applause. The kid is smart just like all Naras. But to be able to use the Kage Sanpo no Jutsu at such a young age. How amazing! Genma looked over to the box where the Chunin examiners were and nodded. Izumo and Kotetsu saw the nod and wrote on their clipboards, "Looks like we might have 2 new chunins, Izumo." Kotetsu grinned. "That Nara kid is smart, that's for sure. Plus he manipulated his opponent in exactly the way he wanted while also doing it in a time frame he seemed to want. Quite amazing." Shikamaru walked up slowly towards the competitor's box where Naruto was waiting with a grin. The blonde quickly ran to the boy and grabbed him by the neck and rubbed Shikamaru's head. "That was awesome, Shika. I didn't know you knew such a cool move like that. Man, I wish could move through the shadows like you." Shikamaru grunted and pushed Naruto off. "Too bad it is a bloodline, or I would totally like to learn it." Shikamaru looked at Naruto oddly before chuckling. "Naruto, you can fly already and move at amazing speeds. I can't see you using the Kage Sanpo, seeing as how it requires patience and planning." Naruto pouted and crossed his arms. "Still would be fun to learn." Naruto gestured for them to head more inside where they stood next to Shino. Temari had walked back up the other way and was now standing by her brother, glaring holes into the pineapple-haired boy. If looks could kill, Shikamaru would be in the 9th level of hell. "It's fine, Temari. Just focus on the plan," Kenkuro whispered. "Whatever." "I just can't believe I lost to him," Temari growled. She then looked at her youngest brother and shivered. Gaara was getting antsy. The Uchiha still wasn't here and she could tell that the Jinchuriki was looking for blood. Naruto was also thinking on the whereabouts of Suki. They pushed her match back already, going back 2 matches in fact. Naruto didn't think they could go anymore. Just then Genma called for Gaara and Suki to the floor and Naruto saw his fellow demon container Shunshin to ground in a swirl of sand. He hoped the girl would come soon or she would be really disqualified. Genma looked at his wrist regarding the watch with a frown. He would give the Uchiha 5 more minutes. If she wasn't here then he couldn't do anything else but disqualify her. Looking at the small sand ninja, Genma sighed and looked once back to the crowd. "Due to Uchiha Suki still not being here, I have no choice but to dash." A gust of wind stopped the examiner mid-sentence and he turned his head to the source of the wind. A whirlwind of leaves blocked Genma's vision, but once they settled there standing tall was Uchiha Suki and Hatake Kakashi. "We're not late, are we?" Kakashi said sheepishly. Genma sighed and shook his head. "Just made it in time, took you long enough." Kakashi scratched the back of his head and I smiled. "Well, looks like we just made it in time then, Suki." Suki's eye twitched and she glared up at her teacher through her bangs. "Proctor-san, how late are we?" Suki grit out without looking away from Kakashi. "We pushed your match back, twice." Suki almost screeched at her silver-haired sensei but kept her calm, though her eye continued to twitch dangerously. "But you're here now, so let's get this match started. Kakashi-san, if you would." Kakashi nodded and left the ground in a puff of smoke and leaves. Suki looked up and noticed a flash of blonde in her vision. It was Naruto waving his hands and arms trying to get her attention. She smirked slightly and gave him a nod. Naruto noticed that his teammate finally spotted him and grinned. He was glad she was finally here and wasn't disqualified. He also noticed that she looked so much different with her new wardrobe. She now had on black collared sleeveless top that showed more of her stomach than the last shirt, which was still covered in mesh. Both her arms sported fingerless arm gloves that clung to her skin and went to her elbows. Her left arm had an elbow guard above the glove for extra protection. Suki's old shorts were replaced by a skirt that stopped at the thighs and were cut on the sides to allow more movement. From her thighs down she had white stockings that were tucked into black ninja sandals. All in all, for Naruto, Suki looked much more feminine and let her growing curves show. She actually looked a lot cuter, not that he would ever say that. Like hell he would. Ever. Suki rolled her shoulders a bit and stared at her opponent. The red-haired boy looked the same as he did a month ago, those same cold eyes staring at her, dead looking above all else. Genma held his hand in front of the two and looked back to his Kage. With a nod from the aged leader he lifted his arm. "Begin." Suki immediately pulled out a round of kunai and lobbed them at Gaara. Just as she expected, sand poured from the gourd on his back and shot in front of him to block the kunai. Rushing forward she started to try and hit the boy with taijutsu, but the sand kept blocking her. In the stands, Kakashi appeared on the stairs next to the row Sakura was sitting in. The pinkette yelped at the sudden entrance of her sensei before glaring at him. "Kakashi-sensei, where have you been?" "Ma, sorry Sakura, but we had some last-minute business to deal with," Kakashi said while smiling. Your tardiness is a cloud over the shining youth of your students, Kakashi. Kakashi sighed inaudibly and turned around. You say something, Guy? Ga curse you, Kakashi, and your hip attitude. Guy cried out. Sakura looked over to the eccentric sensei and saw Lee standing next to him leaning on a crutch. Lee looked over to the girl and smiled slightly, a complete contrast to his usual exuberant self. Hello, Sakura-san. We were hoping to get here earlier to see Naruto and Niji's fight, but I guess we missed it. Oh man, you guys missed it. Ino said, leaning over Sakura so she could talk to the three new arrivals. Naruto was awesome out there. He beat Niji and showed some awesome moves. Yeah. Kiba joined in while laughing. Who would have known that the dead last could fly? Fly? Kakashi thought. You missed Naruto's fight, sensei, Sakura said disappointedly. I bet he would have liked it if you and Suki were here. Kakashi chuckled nervously and rubbed his neck. He knew he should have been here sooner, but it was a pretty long trek to get here from those cliffs. Kakashi could feel Sakura's eyes still on him and he held his hands up in placating motion. Now Sakura, I'm sure he did fine without me. Besides, I'll make it up to you two later. For now, let's just watch Suki's fight. Sakura stared at her sensei for a moment longer before looking back. Even if Suki wasn't Sasuke, Sakura still cared for the other girl. Sakura clenched her hands in worry. Gaara was a monster. What he did to Lee was inexcusable. What if he did that to Suki? What if it wasn't just an arm or leg? Kakashi saw the girl's worry and patted her shoulder. Don't worry, Sakura, Suki will be fine. How can you be so sure? Just watch. Suki, who had been smashing away at Gaara's shield of sand, smirked as she decided to take the fight up a notch. Backflipping from a tendril of sand, the girl rushed forward once more and lashed out with a punch. Just as her fist was about to hit the sand, her form blurred from view and she appeared behind Gaara. What? Gaara whispered. His sand barely made it in time to block before Suki blurred away again and attacked from the side. This back and forth lasted a few minutes before the girl was finally able to beat the sand and she smashed a foot into Gaara's face, sending him tumbling across the ground. Humph, is that all you have? Suki said mockingly as she got into a fighting stance. That is my Gukken. Lee said, shocked. How? What better fighting style to teach her than the one that first injured Gaara? Kakashi stated, still looking down. Don't get me wrong, you are still far ahead of her due to her having to use chakra to augment her muscles so she can move that fast, but with this fighting style she has a chance to win. Lee looked down at the arena from Kakashi and felt a sense of melancholy. Suki, you truly are a genius. To even get this far with Gukken in just a month. And Naruto. The one who defeated my rival. Lee sighed. Will I ever be able to fight again? Naruto was standing with his arms over a ledge watching the beginning of the fight so far. He was quite surprised to see Suki able to move at high speeds, but he guessed Kakashi had to give her something to get past the sand. Shikamaru and Shino stood next to him, both looking at the fight with differing levels of interest. Shikamaru was casting glances at the two Suna ninjas and frowning. They are up to something, he whispered quietly. Who? Shikamaru looked down to Naruto, surprised that the blonde heard him but waved it off. He must have been louder than he thought. Those Suna ninja. They keep whispering and looking around. Almost like they are expecting something. I agree, Shino put in. They are too wound up. My bug sense unease in their behaviors. We'll have to keep an eye on them. Don't drop your guard. Naruto blinked and nodded before looking back to Suki's fight. What could be going on? Suki cartwheeled out the way of a wave of sand and blurred forward once more, striking Gaara in the stomach and following up with a kick to the side that was interrupted by sand. Backing off once more, Suki closed her eyes for a moment and gathered her chakra. Sharingan. Opening her eyes once more, Suki revealed the red orbs of her family's doujutsu, both eyes now with two spinning tomos. With renewed vigor she rushed forth and elegantly dodged the sand tendrils that went for her. Gaara growled lowly and held his hand in front of him. Sand gathered and formed, making a copy of the Jinchuriki. The Suna Bunshin swung a sand arm at Suki, who ducked under it and started for the original. However, she had jump out Hiwei as the clone brought a sandy leg up towards the girl's chin. With a growl, Suki placed her palms on the leg and vaulted herself up. Sticking to the leg with chakra, she spun on her hand while throwing her legs into a split. Her foot smashed into the fake Gaara's face and the sand head blew apart. Suki finished her spin and pushed off the sand to land in crouch before the clone could reform itself. Not letting herself stay still for long, Suki blurred again and appeared in front of Gaara. Gaara was expecting another taijutsu attack, but his pale green eyes widened in shock as Suki went through a chain of hand seals at an amazing pace. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Suki yelled before shooting a large fireball down at point-blank range. The fire jutsu consumed the boy and Suki landed gracefully. Hell, let's see you survive that. When the fire died down, a glass statue of Gaara was left standing there. The glass shattered and fell to pieces and Suki recoiled in shock. A sound behind the girl made her spin to see that the clone she had taken care of was now replaced by the crazed form of Gaara. Yes, yes! Mother will have your blood! Gaara screamed as he lifted his arms. A wall of sand rose up to surround Suki, and when she looked up she was appalled to see a large spike of sand form above her. Shit! There's no way for me to run out. Suki looked around frantically but saw no way out of the sand wall. She had to break through. Hopefully this will get me through, Suki thought as she hurriedly went through seals. Die for mother! The sand spike completed and shot down at Suki, who completed her seals and looked up with her Sharingan spinning. Suki! Naruto screamed out as the sand spike fell upon his teammate. The boy gripped the rail, causing it to groan and leave indents in the metal. Naruto's whole body was tense and his eyes were wide with fear. Shikamaru gripped his friend's shoulder tightly to reel the boy back in. Naruto, calm down, this is Suki we are talking about. The Uchiha Suki, I'm sure she has a plan, Shikamaru said through clenched teeth. Though even he was worried, that last attack looked too hard to escape through just speed. He could have used Shadow Walk to escape, but Suki, he didn't know if Suki had a move like that. Like Naruto, Sakura was also screaming for her teammate. Her screaming was stopped as she felt a hand pat her lightly on the head. Looking up, she saw Kakashi smiling down at her. Don't worry, she is fine. She prepared for this. Just then the wall of sand that once surrounded Suki melted into glass as fire erupted around the spike just as it was about to pierce inside of the circle of glass. The spike that was raised high to kill Suki turned to glass also, and it and the wall shattered into pieces. As the pieces fell, they reflected a shining light coming from Suki. Circling the girl was a long-bodied dragon made of red-hot flames. Its eyes shined white with power. It spun around the girl protectively, its whole body going from Suki's feet to the top of her head. The dragon stopped spinning for a moment and lifted its head high to stare at the shocked Gaara. It roared and then continued to spin, but at a much slower pace. Katan, Karyu Engo, Fire Style, Fire Dragon Protection, Suki said as she looked at her opponent with her head held high. You're finished now. Gaara stared at Suki before he slowly broke out into maniac grin. Yes, yes, this is what mother wants. You are strong, mother wants your strong blood, mother wants you. Gaara threw his arms out and let out waves of sand towards Suki. Suki scoffed and dodged to the side, her Sharingan allowing her to predict the movements of the sand. Suddenly a whip of sand from behind made her look back in alarm. However, the fiery dragon around her roared and lashed out at the sand in an explosion of fire, easily turning the grains into glass. Suki smirked and then ran forward. Using her speed, Suki got close to the green-eyed boy and started to rain down on him with vicious taijutsu attacks. Whenever she threw a punch, a part of the fire that surrounded her body would fly with her fist and either melt the sand or burn the boy it was trying to protect. A brutal uppercut laced with fire sent Gaara flying into the air where a pillow of sand caught him. He got up quickly and made the sand cloud shoot down pellets of sand at Suki. Suki growled in frustration as she dodged as much as she could and let her Karyu Engo take care of what she couldn't. Though even with her fire defense, some shots of sand still impacted her body, causing her to yelp in pain. There were just too many. Hoping to get the boy down, Suki used Kage Bio to get behind Gaara, who blinked in surprise. Katan, Shirsha Rindan, Fire Style, Lion Barrage. Suki yelled as she delivered her taijutsu combo accompanied with fire to Gaara, sending him to the ground. The boy fell to the ground with a grunt and Suki landed gracefully. She pulled a shuriken from her pouch and quickly attached ninja wire to it. Spinning it around quickly, she zeroed in on the recovering Gaara. I want to end this now, so if you don't mind, I'm going to finish this. Suki spun the wire-attached shuriken quickly before launching it towards Gaara. Karyu Engo Tama, Fire Dragon Protection Shot. As Suki yelled the name of her technique, the fire dragon that was circling her sprang onto the wire and followed down to the shuriken till its head encompassed the ninja star. The dragon grew to a great size and it roared, showing the spinning, white-hot shuriken in its mouth. Gaara looked on as the great construct of fire bore down at him, and after years of killing others he felt an emotion he thought he would never feel again. Terror. Mother! An explosion shook the floor as Suki's jutsu connected and black smoke covered the area where Gaara once stood. Suki smirked and turned around thinking she won when a gasp from the crowd made her spin around. In the wake of the destruction she caused stood an orb of sand, a good portion of it melted into glass. However, the glass was shattered off and replaced with more sand to make the orb perfect. Suki looked in shock at the globe and narrowed her eyes. How did he block that? How the hell did he block that? Suki yelled in her mind. She ran forward at a cautious pace but had to jump backwards to avoid being impaled by a spike of sand that shot from the orb. That defense was incredibly strong. It looked like Kakashi was right, she had to use it. Suki back-flipped onto the wall and continued to till she was high above the floor. Flipping through hand seals, she threw her left hand down to the wall and grasped her wrist. Chakra burst forth around her hand as lightning erupted from her fingers. A ring electricity revolved around her feet, feeding the lightning chakra around the girl's hand as the sound of birds chirping echoed across the arena. Really, Kakashi? To have taught the girl that jutsu, Guy said as he looked at Suki. Everyone's attention was focused on the eccentric Jounin as he stroked his chin. What jutsu are you talking about, Guy-sensei? Sakura asked as she shifted her eyes back and forth between Suki and Guy. Kakashi's original technique, it is used as an assassination jutsu. Even though it may sound loud, the jutsu is extremely powerful. Essentially it is basically a strong chakra encased thrust of lightning chakra, but what truly makes this move dangerous is its piercing power. To use the jutsu effectively you need to be able to move at incredible speeds, but the speed you must move at is a liability thanks to the tunnel vision that is suffered. That is why you need to be able to predict how the enemy moves. But if it has such a dangerous drawback, then what is the use? Ino asked. You must have the predicting capabilities of the Sharingan. The genin nodded as they realized why Kakashi would teach it to Suki. What a powerful jutsu. Yes it is, Guy said. With the power to even cut lightning itself and giving a death accompanied by the sound of birds chirping. Thus rightly named. Suki grinned as the jutsu came to full power and she pulled her arm back, while also ripping apart the wall she stood on, and bolted down the wall. Her speed picked up steadily as she ran down to the ground and continued to grow as she flew across it towards the sphere of sand. Her left hand gave off a trail of lightning as Suki held it behind her, the sound of birds chirping screeching out. Suki's Sharingan spun as she got closer to Gaara's defense and she dodged the sand spikes that came out to stab her. With a mighty scream she thrust her arm forward and pierced right through the compacted sand like a hot knife through butter. Chidori, 1,000 birds. Silence met Suki's scream of her jutsu as the crowd stared in awe at the amazing spectacle. That silence was broken by a scream filled with pain and madness that Suki recoiled. Blood! My blood! Gaara screamed from inside the ball. Suki pulled her arm out of the sand with a pained grunt and watched as the sand fell away, leaving a screaming Gaara who clutched his shoulder. An ominous pressure fell upon the stadium as Gaara's screams escalated. Naruto flinched at the feel of the chakra that washed over the stadium and shouted in alarm. Shit, something's happening. He turned to the side to see a horrified expression on both Temari and Kenkuro. This was not good. Up in the Kage booth, Sarutobi slowly turned to side and his eyes met with the only other person sitting down. The two guards of the Kazekage that were wrapped in a cloak shifted and two figures burst from each cloak and jumped to the roof of a separate building. An explosion occurred and knocked the bodyguards of the Hokage off their feet while Orochimaru threw off his disguise and grabbed Sarutobi from behind and put a kunai to his throat. The snake Sannin brought the aged Hokage with him to the building where he stood in the middle of his four-sound ninja. Do it. Yes sir. Fuin, Shishinshin, Sealing Art, 4 Violet Flame Encampment. The sound 4 said simultaneously. A purple box appeared around Orochimaru and Sarutobi, who kicked his old student off of him. Oh ho, looks like the old man still has some fight in him. Sarutobi growled and threw off his Kage robes, revealing his battle armor underneath. I had a feeling this would happen, my former student. To think that you would sink this low as to attack the village of your roots. Orochimaru cackled in response. By the time I'm done there will be no village left. Naruto panicked as he saw the explosion in the Kage box. He turned quickly to see siblings of Gaara jump down to the arena and he growled as he got ready to jump after them while transforming his arm. "I'm not letting you guys get away!" Naruto yelled and not noticing as glowing feathers started to fall around him. "Gomu Gomu, no!" The blonde's eyes started to droop as he swayed and fell back. "What's happening? I'm getting sleepy." Naruto couldn't keep his eyes open any longer and he let the blissful touch of sleep consume him, unaware of the destruction that started to break out around him. Konoha began to fall in chaos. That's it for part 3. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.